Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Navigation. Comprehension Heaven-Defying, Understanding 8-Gate Escape at the Beginning. Chapter 101. Nami's worries are justified. This arc is huge. If it appeared flying over the capital of Seven Waters, everyone would probably be watching. At that time, the gold on their ship will be seen by everyone, causing some people to become jealous and plot. But Luffy is not worried about this. With their current strength, who can steal gold from them? But there was one thing he cared about. That is, if he wanted to build a new ship next, he planned to go to Frankie and then thought of using Nemo's enlightenment to ask Frankie to design the 1,000 miles of sunshine he had already designed into 10 enlarged versions. It is enough for the modified Mary to be stored in the dock inside. Moreover, the wood, treasure tree atom, used to build the new 1,000 miles of sunshine has to be purchased according to the situation. Only in this way can they create a dream ship that can carry them on their next voyage in the future. But the most critical problem now is that he doesn't know Frankie at all. If he went to Frankie directly like this, the other party would definitely not trust him. After careful consideration, Luffy decided to first buy back the treasure tree atom wood needed for shipbuilding. Once they have established trust with Frankie, they can start building it directly. After thinking about this, Luffy spoke to everyone on the boat. Have you heard of treasure tree atom? Hearing Luffy suddenly ask such a question, the others were stunned. Only Nuo Chigao suddenly spoke excitedly. I know. I saw the introduction of treasure tree atom in a botany book. The book says that there are only a few of this kind of tree in the world, but its wood is extremely tough. It is said that a certain island is often attacked by artillery fire, but an Adam's tree on that island has never fallen down and is growing vigorously. It is a very tough tree. The others were all amazed when they heard Nuo Chigao's explanation. See Gui, there is actually a treasure tree as powerful as Chi-Wu-san. There are only a few trees in the world. This kind of tree is so precious. It can thrive even under bombardment. This kind of tree has such tenacious vitality. When everyone was sighing, Nochigao suddenly asked Luffy out of curiosity. Luffy, you suddenly asked what this kind of tree does. The others stopped marveling after hearing this and looked at Luffy in confusion. Just listen to Luffy say. I plan to use this tree to build our next new boat. Look at the Mary, Luffy reminded, and the others looked at the Mary he, which was still on the deck of Proverbs. Just listen to Luffy continue. Although we have always protected the Mary very well. But even so, the Lihao has left a lot of scars. In the future, we will encounter more enemies, experience more battles, and even experience more difficult sea areas. So we must have a ship that is tough enough to help us get through these difficulties. Listening to Luffy's explanation and looking at the various patches and scars on the Melly's body, everyone agreed with Luffy's words. Indeed, as Luffy said, their navigation will be more difficult in the future. If they keep relying on the ordinary wood used by the Mary, they may have to repair it frequently and may even be damaged. A tougher ship was much needed. At this time, Luffy spoke quietly again. So next, we will first go to Mr. Ace Bagu, whom Grandma Kokoluo introduced to us, to see if he can help us find this special wood. By the way, if possible, let's find another shipwright to join us. By then, the new ship and the Mary will be better protected. Everyone became excited when they heard Luffy say that he was looking for a new partner. It is true that we have never had a shipwright on this ship. We have always relied on Usopp's rough craftsmanship for repairs. I always feel a little sorry for Mary. Hey, Sanji, what are you talking about? I'm a sniper. I've done my best to be able to do that, right? Are we going to have a new partner? I'm looking forward to it. We may not be able to find it yet, Chopper. Didn't Grandma Kokoluo say that this is the place with the best shipwright skills in the world? If we can't find it here, we won't have anywhere else to look for it, right? That's true, but you may not be able to find anyone who is willing to be a pirate with us. While everyone was discussing this matter, Luffy suddenly said, Okay, let's go take a look first. This city is so big, there will always be shipwrights willing to join us. After hearing what Luffy said, the others said nothing more and nodded in agreement. Nami was stunned for a moment and couldn't help looking at Luffy and asked. What about this spaceship? What should I do if you haven't answered me yet? Luffy smiled and said, Fly right in. If I leave it outside, I'm afraid you will be even more worried about leaving. Nami was stunned when he heard this. It's true if you think about it carefully. There is so much gold that it will attract others' attention no matter where it is. If you don't keep it by your side, you will feel uneasy. Luffy continued. And don't we also need to renovate the Mary? By the way, bring the Mary in and let them help us renovate it. In fact, Luffy had another reason for doing this. That is, Treasure Tree Atom wood is only traded on the black market. He didn't know if Ace Bagu could get this material. If they can't get it, then if they enter the city in such a big way, the news will definitely reach Frankie. With Frankie's family's tendency to plunder pirate treasures, how could they not be tempted by gold worth trillions? At that time, not only can I take the opportunity to get to know Frankie, but I can also get this kind of wood from his channels. It can be said that it kills two birds with one stone. After making the decision, Luffy asked Nami to restart the proverbs and prepare to fly into the Seven Waters City. The City of Seven Waters is a water city. The streets in the city are mostly waterways, and people mostly use a creature called Blue as a means of transportation for their daily travels. And because this city has excellent security, the residents living here are not afraid of pirates and will even be extremely enthusiastic to give them directions and say hello. At a certain entrance to the island, a man riding Blue greeted people on a boat not far away. "Brother over there, where are you going?" "Oh, it's a back street. Go along this waterway and turn right at the first fork of the road." "Hee, you're welcome," the man responded happily. At this time, he suddenly heard another voice coming from behind him. "Hello, excuse me, do you know where Mr. Ace Bagu is?" Hearing this, the man looked back and replied with a smile. "Mr. Ace Bagu, he's usually very busy. If it's not at the headquarters of Carrera Company, it's on the number 1 ship. The headquarters of Carrera Company is at the highest point on the island, and the No. 1 dockyard is on Center Street." "Wah!" Halfway through the man's words, his mouth suddenly opened, his eyes were full of shock, his expression was extremely astonished, and he said tremblingly, "The ship. The ship is flying in the sky." Just as he exclaimed, the man's jaw suddenly dropped to the ground, his eyes popped out, and his voice was extremely trembling. "Yellow gold. So much gold." After getting the answer he wanted to know, Luffy smiled and thanked the man. "Thanks." Then, they flew to the island in proverbs. Only the man was left standing there, like a puppet. After having a goal, Nami asked Luffy, "Where should we go first? The Carrera Company headquarters, or the shipyard?" Luffy thought briefly and said, "Let's go to the dock first. We just put the Mary there and let them help us start the renovation. If Ace Bagu is not at the dock, we will go to the Carrera Company headquarters. In the capital of Seven Waters. In the past, the city of Seven Waters should have been full of people coming and going, a constant flow, and full of all kinds of laughter and greetings. But today, the people in the capital of Seven Waters all became like puppets, with shocked expressions on their faces, and all of them looked up at the sky in a daze. They looked at the huge ship above their heads, flying slowly in the sky. The ship. The ship is flying in the sky. Is this true or false? How could the ship fly in the sky? This is simply like a sea train, a miracle. While the residents of the city were shocked and sighing, someone suddenly called out, "Hey, look, there's a lot of gold on that ship." Suddenly, everyone noticed the brilliant gold and looked at the huge amount of gold. For a moment, everyone's eyes turned red. How is it possible? That amount, it's unimaginable. It's just like a dream. This much gold must be worth at least 10 billion Baileys. 10 billion, I think it's worth at least 5 trillion. 5 trillion, this. Upon hearing this extremely exaggerated number, everyone was speechless. Some people even fainted on the spot. This number is really amazing. At this time, someone couldn't help but ask curiously, "Who are the people on that ship? They are so rich, they must be some very powerful people." As soon as these words came out, everyone immediately paid attention to the people on the boat. Soon, an exclamation came from the crowd. "It's Straw Hat. Look, the man lying on the side of the boat looking down. That's the super rookie big pirate Straw Hat with a bounty of 500 million belly." As soon as the name came out, the crowd was completely excited. It turns out to be the Straw Hat Boy who was famous all over the world in the live broadcast a few days ago. Has he come to our Seven Waters capital? I watched that live broadcast. Straw Hat crew are all ridiculously strong monsters. It was so shocking. I heard that the Straw Hat crew are extremely vicious pirates. They won't come to destroy us, right? It shouldn't be possible. Don't we still have boatmen from Carrera Company? They are all ridiculously strong. I guess you didn't watch that live broadcast. Otherwise, you wouldn't have said such stupid things. The boatmen of Carrera Company are probably not as good as one hand of the Straw Hat crew. Hey, is it true or not? What you said is too outrageous, isn't it? Are the Straw Hat crew that powerful? And you don't believe it even if you say it. In short, as long as the Straw Hat Boys want to cause destruction in this city, no one can stop them. But I didn't expect that the Straw Hat crew turned out to be a powerful pirate group. They are too rich. I really want that gold. Who wouldn't want to? News of the Straw Hat crew's arrival soon spread throughout the Seven Waters. This made everyone panic, fearing that they would wreak havoc in the city. However, there was another news that spread throughout the city. That is, the Straw Hat crew turned out to be a super powerful pirate group with a value of more than 5 trillion belly gold. This exaggerated number shocked everyone who heard it and made them drool. But Luffy and others still don't know anything about these things. They have been immersed in finding Dock No. 1. Finally, after a period of flight, they found the extremely huge dock located in the city center. With the appearance of the Straw Hat crew, the entire dock door was quickly filled with people. Everyone looked at the Straw Hat crew with extremely passionate eyes, shocked to see him, the flying ship, and the gold that made everyone jealous. After parking the proverb in an open space in the number 1 dock, Luffy jumped down and came to the boatmen who had already gathered together. And he was surprised to find that Ace Bagu was also here. But before he could say anything, he was the first to hear the exclamations of Ace Bagu and several foremen. It's really surprising. This is the first time I've seen a flying ship. It's really unexpected. Even us, the foremen of Carrera Company, have never thought that we can build a flying ship. Who made this ship? How much energy does it take to fly such a huge ship into the sky? And the gold is too exaggerated. It's so hard to take your eyes away. When he saw Ace Bagu and several foremen still shocked by their spaceship and gold, Luffy couldn't help but cough twice. Isis. After this reminder, the few people on the opposite side came to their senses and looked at him. And Luffy naturally knows them. Except for Ace Bagu, the remaining people are the hidden CP9 organization and several unknowing foremen in Berry. Ace Bagu spoke first. I'm sorry, we were distracted when we looked at your spaceship just now. Let me introduce myself. I am Ace Bagu, the boss of Carrera Company and the mayor of this water city. Excuse me, why did you come to our Carrera Company's dock? Although he knew there was someone from CP9 on the other side, Luffy didn't mind. He knew that these people were very serious and responsible in their work as boatmen. He gave Kokoro's introduction letter to Ace Baku, and then spoke. I'm Monkey D. Luffy. We were introduced here by Grandma Kokoluo. I would like to ask you to help us modify a ship. Afterwards, Luffy informed Ace Bagu and these foremen of his idea. After hearing what Luffy said, Ace and others were shocked again. Foreman Barry couldn't help but complain. What kind of pirate group are you? Things like the Squirt Shell are extinct on Sky Island, and you actually have 200 of them. They build ships for the world and naturally have a lot of knowledge. How could they not know how rare the breathing shell is? But who would have thought that Luffy could easily take out 200 of them? This level of wealth shocked Ace Bagu and others as much as the 5 trillion gold they owned. And every one of them felt jealous secretly in their hearts at this moment. This pirate group is simply inhumane. At this time, Ace Bagu spoke. If you have 200 wind-breathing shells, you can transform it into the ship you want. But first, we have to take a look at your ship before we can determine the modification plan and price. Afterwards, the Mary was unloaded from the Proverbs deck. Luffy's request to them was to make the ship as light and strong as possible, and to reduce the hull appropriately, so that it would be easier to store in the future 1,000 miles of Sunshine Dock. Because this transformation is actually like turning the Melee into a large powerhouse, it does not require any complicated technology. As one of the best boat builders in the world, Ace Bagu quickly finalized the renovation plan and price. Renovation of the Mary began immediately. After the arrangements for the Melly were completed, Luffy said to Ace Bagu, "I have one more thing to ask you." Hearing Luffy say there were still questions, Ace Bagu looked at Luffy doubtfully. Then, Luffy told him about the treasure tree Adam wood. However, after hearing this, Ace Bagu shook his head and said, "That kind of special wood will not be traded in the normal market. I can't find the resources either." For this answer, Luffy had already been mentally prepared. So not too disappointed. Now, he just waits for Frankie's family to come to his door. After thanking Ace Bagu, Luffy turned back and said to Nami behind him, "Nami, use your ability to separate some of the gold from the ship. Let's go and convert the gold into profit. It takes 5 million belly to renovate the Melly, and we don't have enough money left." Although it is not difficult to transform Mary, it still requires certain skills to design and perfectly install the spray shell. Therefore, it is still more expensive than ordinary shipbuilding. Nami asked after hearing what Luffy said, "How much gold will it cost?" Luffy thought briefly and said, "Just change it up a bit. Just exchange it for 1 billion first." Dang. As soon as Luffy said this, there was a sound of jaws falling to the ground. Everyone looked at Luffy and others with demented and jealous eyes. 1 billion, what do you mean by changing it casually? But if you think about it carefully, compared to other people's gold worth more than 5 trillion belly, 1 billion is really a small amount. However, it really makes them envious and jealous. When Nami returned to the ship to separate the gold, Ace Baku spoke at this time. "Straw Hat, although you are free to fly wherever you want with this spaceship, the appearance of such a spaceship loaded with gold over the city will cause a commotion. In order to reduce unnecessary trouble and for the sake of the safety of citizens, please keep this spaceship here for the time being." While Ace Bagu was speaking, he glanced at the dense crowd of citizens outside the dock and couldn't help but feel a headache. If such a situation occurs in the city, it may be difficult for the city to continue its normal operation. Luffy also saw the worry and anxiety in Ace Bagu's eyes, so he nodded readily and agreed. Anyway, his goal has been achieved, and the news will definitely reach Frankie. It is not convenient to continue driving this boat around the city for 24 hours, so it is a good choice to stay here. Afterwards, they parked the Proverbs in a newly arranged area in Ace Baku. Then a group of people discussed it. Zoro stayed to watch the ship and guard the gold on the ship. The rest of the people went to the nearby area to exchange the gold that Nami separated into money. Because the shipyard is located in the city center street, it is not far from the place where money can be exchanged, so they came to an exchange smoothly after a while and exchanged 1 billion belly in it. Outside the exchange, the Straw Hat crew gathered together. Nami said as he distributed 10 million belly to everyone. "This 10 million belly is the pocket money of each of you. The remaining 900 million belly will be reserved for us to use on new ships when we have the opportunity." Everyone was extremely excited when they heard that everyone had pocket money of 10 million belly. Chopper said excitedly, "See Gui, in the past, every time I went to a town, I only had 100,000 bellies pocket money, but this time I had 10 million berry. Great, I'm going to buy a lot of medical books and medicines." Sanji lit a cigarette and said, "Although our new ship hasn't been settled yet, we still need the necessary food. I'm going to see if there are any fresh ingredients here." Usopp said with excitement, "Now that we have so much money, I can finally start working on that. I'm going to buy a lot of gunpowder." Seeing Usopp so excited, the others couldn't help but wonder. What is that?" Usopp said while maintaining a mysterious look. "You will know after I study it. It's something very powerful." Usopp's eyes were full of anticipation and excitement, which aroused the curiosity of everyone else and made them look forward to getting up. Only Luffy instantly thought of what Usopp was talking about. When he asked Usopp to study buggy bullets, Usopp had figured out 3 types of buggy bullets. But now, only the most powerful, super buggy bullet, has not been researched and manufactured. There was no way, the pirate group had never had the money to buy him so much gunpowder before. Even if he ate the explosive fruit, he would not be able to produce that much gunpowder on his own before awakening. But now that he finally has money, Usopp is so excited. After listening to the plans of several other people, Nami said excitedly to Yuta and the other girls. Yuta, Nuauchigao, Robin, Vivi, let's go shopping. Now that we have so much money, we can buy many beautiful new clothes. Soon, everyone else went to do their own things. In the end, only Luffy and Karu were left without any purpose. What remained with them was the 900 million belly that Nami entrusted to him for safekeeping. One person and one duck looked at each other. Gah! Karu yelled. It seems to be saying, please, to Luffy. Luffy smiled slightly and said, okay, let me take you today. After saying that, Luffy planned to take Karu back to the dock first, put the 900 million belly on the proverb, and then take Karu to visit the city. However, when they returned to the dock again with the money, they found a large number of people surrounding the door. Everyone looked very frightened. The scene was extremely chaotic, and screams of surprise were heard from time to time. Oops, that Frankie is here. What's that villain doing here? Frankie's family originally made a living by robbing pirates and breaking ships that came to this city. They must have come here for the Straw Hat Crew's gold. This is really not good. If Frankie angers the Straw Hat Crew, will they destroy our city? Someone go and stop him. I heard that some foremen are confronting Frankie in the dock right now. After probably hearing what happened, Luffy quickly took Karu into the dock. As soon as he entered the gate, he saw Frankie and Rob Lucci standing opposite each other in front of him, looking tense. Just listen to Frankie say, I told you, get out of here. I'll go in and watch the Straw Hat Crew use their spaceship. Rob Lucci looked serious, and the dove on his shoulder spoke for him. Mr. Ace Bagu said, let us prevent anyone from approaching the Straw Hat Crew ship and prevent anyone from taking advantage of their gold. If you make them angry, the city will fall apart. So we definitely won't let you in. This is what Ace Bagu specially told these foremen before leaving here. He was afraid that someone in the city would be jealous of the Straw Hat Crew's gold and take action against them. At that time, it may threaten the safety of the entire city. That's why Ace Bagu asked the boatmen here to prevent anyone from approaching the ship. Frankie said impatiently after hearing this. So didn't I say that I was just going to see the structure of this spaceship? I want to know how they built this spaceship and why it can fly. Frankie was shocked when his younger brother reported to him that the Straw Hat Crew had appeared in the city with gold worth more than 5 trillion belly. But when he thought about the strength of Straw Hat Crew, he still hesitated. But when his little brother continued to report to him that the Straw Hat Crew was driving a flying ship, he couldn't sit still at all. He thought that by following his master Tom, he had learned a lot about the shipbuilding industry. But I have never heard of a ship that can fly. So he was full of curiosity about this spaceship. I thought about coming and taking a look. But obviously, his reputation in this city is so bad that no one believes him. Just listen to Kaku continue what he said at this time. Your excuse is so stupid, Sanji. Who in this city doesn't know the style of your Frankie family? Do you think we will believe your words? Frankie completely lost his patience after hearing this, gritted his teeth and said angrily. You fools, how dare you not believe me? It seems we have no choice but to take action. Frankie said, clenching his two fists. Seeing this scene, all the onlookers looked nervous. Frankie is the biggest villain in the city, and every citizen has seen his terror. So even if they are facing these powerful foremen, ordinary people like them can't help but worry. At this moment, a voice suddenly came from behind Frankie. You want to see our ship? Hearing this voice, all the boatmen in the dock looked at the speaker, and Frankie also turned back in confusion at this time. When they saw the person speaking clearly, the crowd suddenly became extremely frightened. That Straw Hat. How could it be? Why did the Straw Hat boy suddenly come back? No, we have to stop Frankie quickly. If Straw Hat knows that Frankie wants to steal their gold, he will definitely be angry. The boatmen had a quick discussion and immediately launched a siege on Frankie. At this moment, Luffy raised his hand to stop them. It doesn't matter. If he wants to see it, I will take him to see it. When Luffy spoke, he looked at Frankie with a smile on his lips. Frankie looked confused at this scene. He didn't expect Luffy to be so easy to talk to. Isn't it rumored that Straw Hat is a supervillain who does all kinds of evil? Frankie was confused, but he was more concerned about going to see Proverbs, so he was too lazy to think about it that much. After getting Luffy's permission, he followed Luffy and headed towards the place where the Proverbs were parked to seek medical treatment. At this time, a boatman's worried voice sounded nearby. "Straw Hat, you don't know Frankie. He is a villain. He will definitely steal your gold. You cannot take him to your ship." Luffy looked around after hearing this and found that almost every boatman's face was full of worry and panic. They are all afraid that Frankie will anger the Straw Hat crew and destroy the city. But what surprised these people was that Luffy smiled at them and Tien Fen said politely, "Thank you for the reminder. I'll keep an eye out." After saying that, Luffy took Frankie towards Proverbs again. And those boatmen stood one by one. He was in a daze on the spot, with a look of surprise and disbelief in his eyes. "That Straw Hat boy just said thank you to us. Didn't you say he is a supervillain? Why does he look so polite? And he doesn't look like an extremely dangerous pirate as reported in the news. How strange. Could it be that what is said in the news is false?" The boatmen were also confused. As for Luffy, when he brought Frankie to Proverbs, Zoro was training. Seeing Luffy bring back a strange man, Zoro suddenly asked curiously, "Luffy, who is this guy?" The Proverbs is now parked at the deepest part of the dock, so Zoro didn't hear the noise at the door just now. Luffy replied, "His name is Frankie, and he said he wanted to come and see our spaceship. So I brought him over. It seems like he knows a lot about ships. Maybe he is an excellent shipwright." Zoro looked at Frankie from head to toe with a suspicious look on his face. His expression became more and more abstract, especially when he saw that Frankie was only wearing a pair of underwear on his lower body. He couldn't help but say, "This guy looks like a pervert no matter what. Where do you look like a good shipwright?" Even Karu kept nodding at this time, agreeing with Zoro's words. Frankie heard this but didn't care. Instead, his attention was completely attracted by the ship. Zgu rushed into the cabin alone, and Shang looked at the structure of the entire ship. Luffy and the others ignored him and stayed on the deck. "Luffy, is it okay to let the pervert see our ship by himself?" Zoro is still a little worried. After all, there is so much gold on the ship. What if the pervert sneaks some away and runs away? Luffy smiled and said, "It seems to me that he really just came to see this ship, so he doesn't have to worry about the gold." Luffy believed Frankie after hearing what he said at the dock door. Although this person does have a bad reputation in this city at this stage, Luffy knows that Frankie's character will not lie. So there was absolutely no defense against him at the moment. Zoro saw this and said nothing more, and went back to training. He trusted Luffy's judgment. After a long time, Frankie ran out of the cabin, rushed to Luffy's side immediately, and asked excitedly, "What powers your ship? I have checked the structure of this ship and found no power source to provide power. Moreover, to make such a large ship fly, ordinary power sources simply cannot do it. How on earth did you make it fly?" Luffy looked at Frankie's extremely curious look and told him about Thunder Fruit. Frankie suddenly realized what he said and exclaimed, "I see. Is it using lightning as power? I just said, how can there be a ship that can fly?" So this is awe. Seeing Frankie gradually calm down, Luffy finally asked, "Are you interested in our ship?" Frankie said without thinking, "What good shipwright wouldn't be interested in a flying ship? Those guys didn't mention it, they're just afraid of you." In fact, as Frankie said, Ace Bagu, including the foreman in Barry, are full of curiosity about Proverbs and want to find out. But given that the other party was the extremely evil Straw Hat crew reported in the news, they did not dare to offend easily. Only Frankie's fearless character would not care about this. After hearing Frankie's words, Luffy couldn't help but smile and said, "So, you are really an excellent shipwright. It just so happens that our pirate group is looking for a shipwright. Do you want to join us?" Frankie was stunned when he heard this, looked at Luffy curiously, and said, "Didn't you listen to those people outside? I am a villain that everyone is afraid of. Do you want to invite a villain to be your shipwright?" Luffy said calmly, "We pirates sound scarier than a villain like you." Hearing Luffy say this, Frankie couldn't help but be stunned. Suddenly he realized that Luffy and the others were a group of pirates, and he burst into laughter. "You guys don't look like pirates at all. It made me forget that you were pirates." Luffy asked upon seeing this, "How about it? Do you want to join us?" At this time, Frankie suddenly stopped laughing. his expression became very serious, and he said, "Thank you very much for the invitation. But I'm sorry, I have a reason to insist on staying on this island. You'd better find another shipwright." After hearing what Frankie said, Luffy stopped trying to persuade him. He knew Frankie stayed to atone for his sins, because he was the one who indirectly killed his master Tom. Therefore, he has never forgiven himself and wants to stay on this island and silently guard this island to atone for his sins. Just as Luffy was thinking about this, Frankie suddenly spoke. "I heard that you want to buy wood from the Adam's treasure tree." Luffy took back his thoughts after hearing this, looked at Frankie, nodded, and said, "That's right, we're going to build a new ship here. I heard that this kind of wood is very strong, so I thought of using this kind of wood as the material of new boats." Frankie nodded after listening. After a short silence, he suddenly spoke. "For the sake of letting me visit your ship, I will do this for you. Show me the design drawings of your new ship, and I will calculate how much wood is needed." Luffy looked at Frankie expressionlessly and said calmly, "We don't have blueprints for the new ship." Frankie's expression suddenly became distorted. He looked at Luffy with a puzzled face and said, "Ah, are you kidding me? Without a blueprint, do you know how much wood to buy?" Luffy thought for a while after hearing this, and then told Frankie about the group situation of the Mary. After finishing speaking, he continued to add, "So we wanted to build a ship that could accommodate the modified Mary. Perhaps if you look at the size of the modified Melee designed by Ace Baku, you will know how much materials to buy." Luffy was about to take Frankie to take a look at the Melee, but unexpectedly Frankie stood there like a puppet. When Luffy went to look out of curiosity, he saw Frankie suddenly burst into tears. "Awesome, you guys are so nice. If other pirates got a new ship, they would definitely abandon the old ship without hesitation. But you still want to keep the old ship. We also need to build a new ship based on the Melee. You fools, I like you so much. Ooh." Frankie cried loudly without any scruples. If this scene were seen by those citizens, it would probably be shocking. Who among them could have imagined that the big villain would actually have this side? Frankie cried for a while before he recovered. At this time, Frankie suddenly asked Luffy an inexplicable question. "Straw Hat Boy, what do you want?" Luffy was stunned when he heard this and said doubtfully, "Pursue." Frankie nodded and said with longing in his eyes, "Just like my pursuit of building a dream ship that can cross all seas, do you have any pursuits?" When Frankie said this, Luffy understood what he meant, and with the same longing in his eyes, he said confidently, "My quest. One Piece." Frankie's eyes lit up when he heard Luffy's confident voice. Suddenly he burst out laughing. "Ah, I really like you, Straw Hat." Although Frankie's words sounded ambiguous, Luffy knew that he meant appreciation. After laughing, Frankie gradually calmed down and said to Luffy, "Straw Hat, do you know? Actually, I once vowed not to build ships again. But in the end, because of my love, I designed a dream boat in my imagination. I think one day I can build this boat and give it to someone I admire. Let him use this dream boat I built to travel through the adventure." When Frankie said this, his eyes were full of longing. His master once built a dream boat that could carry Roger across the entire ocean, so he also wanted to build a dream boat that could also travel across the entire ocean. Luffy listened quietly, while Fran continued, "Actually, I have already drawn the design of this ship. I originally thought my design was the most perfect. Because it has the functions that all ships should have, and it also has functions that other ships do not have. But when I learned that there were flying ships in this world, I suddenly realized that maybe the ship I designed was not the most perfect. So no matter what, I want to see how your spaceship actually flies, and then redesign my ship into a real dream ship. But after seeing your ship, I realized that you relied on devil fruit ability to fly." Having said this, Frankie suddenly paused, and then sighed inexplicably. Maybe this is God's will. After sighing, he suddenly looked at Luffy seriously. "Straw Hat." Luffy looked at Frankie after hearing this, and then listened to what the other person said. "I made a decision. I will redesign my ship into its most perfect appearance and then give it to you. Let you ride it across the entire sea and turn it into a real dream ship. Will you accept it as your new partner?" Frankie said it very seriously, with strong expectations and longing in his eyes. Although he had only known Luffy for a short time, he could tell that they got along very well. Especially when he learned that Luffy's pursuit turned out to be the pinnacle of pirates, he made up his mind to entrust Luffy with his dream ship. Luffy, on the other hand, looked at Franky blankly. He did not expect that Franky would make up his mind so quickly to hand over the 1,000 miles of sunshine he designed to him. Even Zoro, who was training on the side, and Karu, who was always beside him, were infected by Franky's serious look. Staring at Luffy quietly, waiting for his response. Luffy looked at Franky for a while, then he nodded and said, "Of course I do." Hearing Luffy agree, Zoro and Karu both raised their mouths. The boat Franky mentioned sounded very good, which made them all look forward to it. Franky grinned after hearing Luffy's words and seemed to feel much more relaxed. He was very happy to have settled one of his worries. "Take me to see the Mary now. I'll see how big the ship I designed will be when the time comes, and calculate how much wood will be needed." Luffy nodded and took Franky to the place where the Melly was being renovated. Because he was afraid that the Straw Hat crew would be dissatisfied, Ace Bagu specially handed over the modification of the Melly to a few foremen. After seeing Ace Bagu and several foremen's design for rebuilding the Melly, Franky went to Luffy and told him, "I've seen their design, and it's really perfect. You can rest assured about this. As for the wood to build a new ship, I think it will cost about 400 million belly." When Luffy heard this number, he handed over 400 million Baileys to Franky without hesitation. After Franky took the money, he left anxiously. He said he would buy the wood as soon as possible, and then go back and change the design so that he could start building it after the wood came back. Luffy thanked Franky and then breathed a sigh of relief. The matter of the new ship was settled, and he could finally relax and take a tour of this floating city. On the streets of the Seven Waters capital, Luffy rented a blue and took Karoo around with him. Suddenly, he noticed a lot of meat hanging on a stall, which looked like a balloon filled with water. Luffy was immediately attracted to it. When the stall owner saw a customer coming, he immediately introduced him warmly. "This guest just came to our Seven Waters capital, right? This meat is called water meat. It is a specialty of our Seven Waters capital. It tastes very good. Want to try?" Luffy nodded in agreement without hesitation, then picked up one and started eating it. So tender, so smooth, delicious. After taking a bite, Luffy couldn't help but be pleasantly surprised. Then, under the shocked gaze of the stall owner, he took out a thick stack of Baileys and said, "I'll take care of all the meat you have here." As soon as he finished speaking, he handed a handful of money to the stall owner, took down all the nearly 100 pieces of meat on the stall, and left. The stall owner was left standing alone in the wind, disheveled, staring blankly at Luffy's back. After a long time, he turned to look at the thick wad of money in his hand and sighed. "I met the god of wealth." After leaving the stall, Luffy and Karu each held a large pile of meat and ate happily and contentedly. One moment I'll see if there's anything delicious, and the other I'll see what's new. Wandering aimlessly on the streets of the Seven Waters capital. Because they had been focusing on eating and playing, they didn't care about the route at all. I don't know when, they were taken to a street with few people by Blue. Gah! When Luffy was eating happily, Karu suddenly screamed, "Have you finished eating so quickly? I'll give you one then." Luffy took out a piece of meat from the 3 remaining pieces of meat in his hand, and handed it to the doctor behind him without buying it back. But what surprised him was that Karu didn't take his meat, but screamed again. Luffy was confused and looked back at Katang strangely. Found it looking in a certain direction. When Luffy followed its line of sight, he was startled. He saw Robin following a masked man in a deserted alley across the river. The moment he saw this scene, Luffy frowned and vaguely thought of something. He stuffed the rest of the meat into his mouth at the same time and swallowed it in one gulp. Then he jumped to the street across the river. "Robin!" Luffy yelled at Robin's back. Hearing this voice, Robin's body visibly trembled. And the man wearing the mask suddenly stopped and looked back. When he saw that the person coming was Luffy, the masked man immediately reached out and touched his side. A transparent door appeared out of thin air. Just when he was about to take Robin in, Luffy instantly turned on Gear 2, his figure flashed as if teleporting, and he was in front of the man in the blink of an eye. Boom! There was a loud bang. The man's head was pushed to the ground by Luffy, making a deep hole. No longer paying attention to the person he was holding down, Luffy asked Robin. Robin, what's going on? Didn't you go shopping with Nami and the others? Why are you with this strange person? Robin kept his back to Luffy and didn't even look back at him at this time. She was silent for a long time, as if she was making a decision. Just when Luffy was about to speak again, Robin's voice sounded. Luffy. Her voice sounded a little low. Luffy listened quietly as Robin continued. I decided to break away from your group. Luffy's expression suddenly turned cold when he heard this, and his voice was equally low as he said. I told you the first time you got on my boat. Now that you're on my ship, you can't leave without my permission. Robin fell silent upon hearing this. After a long time, she spoke again. Luffy, let's say goodbye in this city. I have a darkness that you don't know about, and that darkness will destroy you. Luffy sighed inwardly. From the moment he saw the masked man opening a door out of thin air, he knew that CP9 was looking for Robin. I also know that Robin is worried that she will affect the safety of the Straw Hat crew. Luffy persuaded Robin. Robin, just tell me if you have anything. I am your captain and I will definitely help you solve it. Hearing Luffy say this, Robin's body trembled even more, and tears squeezed out of his eyes. But the more Luffy cares about her, the less she wants to see herself drag Luffy and the others into the water. After calming down a little and adjusting his mood, Robin spoke again. Luffy, although we have only been together for a short time, you have always been very kind to me. Thank you. Robin paused here. After a moment of silence, Tuan said in a heavy tone. From now on, we will never meet again. After saying this, Robin ignored Luffy and walked towards the alley ahead with his head lowered and heavy steps. Luffy kept looking at Robin's back until she turned the corner at the end of the alley and disappeared. Boom! Luffy's hand pressed hard on the masked man's head, and the mask on his face shattered. The face Luffy recognized was revealed. Blueno. At this moment, Blueno's expression was painful, and there was blood at the corner of his mouth. He never struggled under Luffy. Even when he tried to use his fruit power to escape, Luffy grabbed his head tightly, making it impossible for him to break free. Straw Hat Boy, let me go. Nico Robin will not come back to you. You give up. Blueno struggled painfully. Luffy just looked at him coldly after hearing this, his eyes full of anger and murderous intent. Suddenly he thought of something, and he felt it on Blueno's body, and soon took out a phone bug from his arms. Nuo handed the phone bug to Blueno. Luffy said coldly. Call your superiors. Blueno looked at the phone bug but made no move. Luffy didn't say anything when he saw this, but his expression became fierce and the hand holding his head became harder and harder. Blueno's expression also became more and more painful, and finally at a certain point he couldn't bear it anymore and dialed the phone bug. Soon, an extremely frivolous voice came from over there. It's Blueno. How's it going? Did Nico Robin get it? I said as long as we scare her with the Buster Call, she will definitely follow us. That stupid woman. Ah. On the other end of the phone, Spandam was in an office in Ennie's lobby, laughing loudly as he picked up a cup of coffee made by his subordinates and put it to his mouth. At this moment, an extremely low voice came from the phone. I'm Monkey D. Luffy. Thump. Spandam's body trembled suddenly, and the coffee that was brought to his mouth also trembled and splashed in his face. Spandam was in pain and jumped up and down, howling continuously. Oko IKG 1 kilogram. So hot, 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 hot. When the pain gradually subsided, Spandam suddenly said with a look of horror. What do you want to do? Where's Blueno? What did you do to him? Luffy grabbed Blueno's head and squeezed it hard, causing the other party to let out a scream. Coco KG. Spandam was frightened when he heard the miserable wailing, and his eyes were filled with fear. At this time, Luffy's deep voice sounded again. Robin made her own choice to go with you. But, I will definitely bring her back. During the time she is with you. If I find out that she is missing a hair, I will definitely let you. All die. Massage. Hearing Luffy's words, Spandam's inner fear was amplified to the extreme, his pupils shrank to a point, and his nose flowed out. But when he thought about his identity and looked at the golden phone bug on the table, he suddenly felt confident again. He said calmly, Straw Hat, do you know who you are talking to? I am the commander of CP9, and I represent the world government. If you threaten me now, you are threatening the government of the world. You are challenging the majesty of the government of the world. Do you want to be the enemy of the whole world? After saying this in one breath, the confidence on Spandam's face became stronger and stronger. World government represents the absolute power of the world, and more than 180 countries are members of world government. Whoever dares to be an enemy of the world government is an enemy of the whole world. He believed that the Straw Hat Boy would be scared to death after hearing his words, and would not dare to be so presumptuous to him again. However, at this moment, the voice on the phone continued to ring. Don't say you're just some bullshit CP9 commander. Even if you're a celestial dragons. As long as you dare to touch my people, I will kill you when I catch Mariajoy. Crunch. Boom. When Spandam heard this, he was so frightened that he fell off his chair and sat on the ground. His eyes were full of panic, his nose was dripping with mucus, and his whole body was wet with cold sweat. This pirate is too scary. Why can't the new pirates now suppress the world's main government? For a moment, he began to regret putting his hand on Nicole's body. But when he caught a glimpse of the golden phone bug on the table in front of him, he gained some confidence. With this thing around, he believed that the Straw Hat Boy would definitely not be his opponent. Moreover, he had already proposed the idea of resurrecting Pluton to the 5 elders and received support. Nico Robin is another key to unlocking Pluton. If he can hold Nico Robin in his hands, he will definitely make great achievements and be promoted to a high official. Thinking of this, Spandam calmed down again and spoke into the phone. Straw Hat, Nico Robin came to our side voluntarily. So I advise you to release our people quickly. Otherwise, you will definitely regret it. Luffy didn't say any more nonsense to Spandam after hearing this. He just squeezed Blueno's hand harder, and the other party suddenly let out another scream. Okojosusaus. This scream was stronger than every time before. Spandam became more and more frightened when he heard it, and his heart suddenly burst. At this moment, Luffy gave a final reminder. This person is a warning. If you didn't listen to me, you would have touched Luo Gen's hair. The next person to die is you. Clip. The phone was hung up, and Stam's expression was extremely frightened. He suddenly felt as if he had lost all his strength and fell to the ground. The moment his back touched the ground, he felt the coldness coming from behind. It was also at this time that he realized that his cold sweat had already soaked his clothes. Recalling Luffy's last words in his mind, Spandam couldn't help but feel frightened. Looking up at the ceiling, he murmured, "Then, that devil actually killed Blueno in front of me." Spandam couldn't believe it. There are actually people who dare to kill the people of the World Palace in front of the World Palace. He had only heard of this extremely evil pirate being lawless before, but at that time he felt that a new pirate could be suppressed by simply intimidating him with a force that he could not resist. However, this time, he really saw why this new pirate was called the worst newcomer. After lying on the ground in shock for a long time, he suddenly remembered something, sat up suddenly, picked up the phone and contacted another person. It took a while for the phone call to be answered. Is that Rob Lucci? On the other side of the phone bug, Rob Lucci was hiding alone in a corner, listening to the voice inside the phone bug and couldn't help but frowning, with a puzzled look on his face. Spandam's voice sounded very panicked, and he contacted me suddenly. Could it be that something happened? Rob Lucci replied in a deep voice. It's me. Hearing this voice, Spandam suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. Great, looks like you didn't get caught. After taking a long breath, he continued to speak to Lucci in a special manner. Listen up, Rob Lucci. Blueno was killed by Straw Hat. You don't have to hide anymore, act quickly today. Bring Pluton's design drawings and Nico Robin back to me as quickly as possible. Lucci couldn't help but frown when he heard Spandam's words. This sudden incident made him feel extremely troublesome. But he still responded, I see. After talking to Lucci, Spandam sat there blankly and started thinking. Judging from what he heard from the Straw Hat Boy just now, even if Rob Lucci brought Nico Robin to Eni's lobby, the Straw Hat Boy might still come after him. Although all members of CP9 are experts, Straw Hat's strength shocked the whole world at the time, CEDC. He was still a little worried about losing to CP9. Thinking of this, he once again turned his attention to the golden phone on the table. This is his greatest support. After Robin and Pluton's blueprints are obtained, he must rely on Buster Call to kill the Straw Hat crew. Otherwise, the Straw Hat Boy might really keep chasing him like the phone bug said. Luffy sighed. After he hung up the phone bug, he planned to end Blueno's life here. He did this not only to give Spandam a warning, but also to get rid of Blueno's somewhat unsolvable ability. If he keeps it, if he relies on his ability to move Robin to a place that is difficult for ordinary people to reach, it will be troublesome to return. Just when Luffy made up his mind and was ready to take action, out of the corner of his eye, he saw Karoo running over quickly and shouted at him. Gah! Luffy was stunned when he heard this. He looked at Karoo in confusion. It seemed that the ability to listen to the sounds of all things hidden in his body suddenly took effect, and he instantly understood what Karoo meant. You mean you want this ability? Gah! Kaloo shouted when he heard this and nodded firmly. Luffy had used Heaven-Defying Savvy to help it attract Devil Fruit before, but it didn't work out. But that time, Karoo discovered his hidden talent. But because it has never been exposed to the concept of spatial ability, it has never known how to describe its talent. And when I just saw Blueno's ability to use the gate fruit to open a door out of thin air, its brain seemed to be activated and it was instantly determined that it was the ability that matched its hidden talent. Seeing how serious Karoo looked, Luffy decided to give it a try. And if you can really use such an unsolvable ability for yourself, it will definitely be of great help to their Straw Hat crew in the future. After preparing Karoo, Luffy imparted Heaven-Defying Understanding to it. At the same time, his hand pressing Blueno's head was suddenly wrapped in black. Something like a red halo quickly appeared on top of the black. The red halo was like a flowing water ball, flowing along his hand to Blueno's head. Boom! A violent sound. The ground below Blueno's head was directly blasted through by a powerful impact, exposing the seawater below. Blueno, on the other hand, bled from 7 holes and died suddenly. Then, there was a quiet wait. The blood flowing from Blueno's head dripped into the sea below along the ground broken by Luffy. Soon, Luffy saw that there were many kinds of sea fish with sharp fangs in the sea that were attracted by the smell of blood, and they started biting each other because of the smell of blood. The scene quickly became extremely chaotic. At this time, a smart sea fish seemed to have discovered that the blood was flowing out of the hole, and moved toward the hole with its fangs open. Looking at the sea fish getting closer and closer, Luffy's eyes suddenly lit up. He was surprised to see that there was a devil fruit stuck in the sword-like sharp proboscis of the sea fish. The moment he saw devil fruit, a reminder came to his mind. Your understanding is heaven-defying, and through perception and transmission, your conductor is extremely talented, and the door fruit is attracted to you. Seeing this prompt, Luffy couldn't help but feel happy. Unexpectedly, Karoo actually has space talent, and he also attracted the door fruit. When the sword nose of the sea fish stretched out from the hole, he took the opportunity to pull out the devil fruit from its nose. Then gave it to Karoo. As if Karoo had been guided and found the ability that suited it, he picked up the devil fruit and took a bite without hesitation. Quote. Even the duck couldn't bear the taste of devil fruit and let out a retching sound. At this time, Luffy helped Karoo quickly understand his abilities through Heaven-Defying Comprehension. Then he spoke to it. Try your abilities. Karoo nodded upon hearing this. Lifting its wings and arms, and pushing out of thin air, an air door was opened by it. Looking from the outside, there is a green space inside. Seeing such a scene, Luffy and Karoo were stunned. After that, they no longer continued to play, but began to return in the direction of the dock. What happened to Robin happened suddenly, and they had to go back quickly to explain it to others. An island-wide alert is now issued. According to observations from the Meteorological Bureau, the god of water, Akura Ragnar, will descend tonight. All residents are requested to leave the island as soon as possible or seek refuge in higher ground. On the way back to the dock, such a broadcast sounded on the island. Amid worried exclamations from the citizens, Luffy took Karoo back to the dock. When the two of them returned to Proverbs, the Straw Hat crew had all returned. Except, of course, Robin. The moment he saw Luffy and Karoo appear, Nami immediately ran to Luffy in a panic and said to him, "No, Luffy, Robin is missing. A few of us went shopping, and when we came out of a store, we found that Robin had disappeared." We searched for it for a long time but couldn't find it. Nami's knowledge range is extremely wide, and even she has not been found, which makes everyone very worried. Just listen to her continue. Oh, we searched for Robin for a long time, so we wondered if she would come back here first. But when we came back, we found that Robin wasn't here either. What should we do, Luffy? Nami said anxiously, and everyone else also had solemn expressions, full of worry. At this time, Luffy slowly spoke. I met Robin. She said she wanted to leave our group. As soon as these words came out, everyone couldn't help but be shocked. They all spoke. Why did Robin leave us? Did we do something bad that made Robin angry? Luffy, have you met Robin? Why don't you bring her back? Yeah, Luffy, did you just let Robin leave us like that? Do you agree with her getting off our boat? Listening to everyone's continuous questions, Luffy raised his hand to signal. Everyone immediately stopped talking and looked at Luffy, waiting for his answer. At this time, Luffy spoke. It's Robin's own choice to leave, and of course I won't agree to it. But I won't stop her and force her back. Hearing Luffy say this, everyone's faces were filled with confusion. Why, if we don't bring her back, won't she still leave us? Nami couldn't help but ask. The rest of the people thought the same way. Luffy replied after hearing this. Robin is afraid of something now. Even if she is brought back by force, she will still try her best to escape from us in the future. So we need to help her get rid of her fears so that she can truly come back to us. At this time, Yuta asked, what is Robin afraid of? Luffy glanced at everyone, and then spoke word by word. She's afraid that because of the darkness in her body, it will harm the rest of us. Although they didn't know what darkness Luffy was talking about, everyone understood what he meant just by listening to his words. That is, Robin does not want to leave them. But in order to protect them, he had to choose to leave. At this moment, everyone suddenly breathed a sigh of relief and smiled on their faces. Great, it seems Robin doesn't really want to leave us. It turns out she did this to protect us. I thought we did something wrong to make her angry. How is it possible? Luo Ding is not that kind of person. Robin sacrificed herself for us, we must bring her back. When everyone breathed a sigh of relief, Sanji asked Luffy. Luffy, when you say that the darkness you want to hide behind should be referring to the secret in her body that will attract powerful enemies to us. Then, our enemy is. When Sanji asked this question, everyone else looked at Luffy. They didn't care what secrets Robin had, or the danger it would bring to them. Everyone's first reaction was to face the coming powerful enemy. Luffy looked at everyone and said slowly, the Palace of the World. Hearing this name that made pirates fearful, the Straw Hat crew not only had no fear at this moment but were extremely determined. Because they have a goal. After that, Luffy told everyone about CP9. After finishing speaking, he continued. Now it is the secret organization of this world's government that wants to take away Robin. And Robin himself chose to come together with them, because they must have something in their hands that Robin is afraid of. So what we have to do next is to follow this organization and find what Robin is afraid of. Then destroy this thing and make Robin truly willing to come back to us. Luffy did not directly say what Robin was afraid of, nor did he choose to lead everyone to make a fuss in Enies lobby. Because what he wants to change is Robin's mind, the most important thing is to hear Robin's true words. Only when Robin is willing to tell them that he wants to return can the goal be truly achieved. After listening to Luffy's words, everyone finally understood the general process of bringing Robin back. Then he asked about the relevant details. Then what exactly are we going to do? At this moment, the radio rang throughout the island 10 times. An island-wide alert is now issued. According to observations from the Meteorological Bureau, the god of water, Akura Ragnar, will descend tonight. All ports are now closed. The sea train will officially stop running after the last train starts at 7 p.m. All residents who want to leave the island for refuge are asked to hurry up. Listening to the voice on the radio, Luffy quickly had an idea in his mind. Then, he said to everyone, now that the port is blocked, they have to rely on the sea train to take Robin out. With that said, Luffy looked at Sanji and said, Sanji, take Karu with you to the train platform and secretly monitor when Robin shows up. Contact us after they leave with Robin. After hearing Luffy's words, Sanji suddenly looked confused and asked. Why are you taking Karu with you? Isn't it more secretive if I am alone? Before Luffy said anything, Karu screamed. Gah! When it attracted everyone's attention, it stretched out its wings and arms, pushed out of thin air, and an air door was opened by it. Seeing such a scene, everyone couldn't help but be shocked. What's this? A door opened in the air. It looks like a strange space inside. Is it a devil fruit ability? Seeing everyone's surprised look, Karu looked proud, and raised his head a little. As Karu spoke, Chopper translated for everyone. Luffy just helped me eat the door fruit. This fruit allows me to open a door anywhere and create a layer of space. Not only can the alien space not be destroyed or discovered by people, but you can also see the outside world from inside. Sanji, if you and I hide in a different space and monitor, no one will find us. After translating for Karu, Yinba repeatedly exclaimed. The country of sea. The country of Karis. Others couldn't help but exclaimed when they heard this. What a convenient ability. You can enter and exit any place at will. This different space is so strong that it cannot be attacked by others. It is simply an invincible shelter in battle. Can people and objects other than people with abilities enter a different space? Then can we store gold in this different space? Usopp suddenly said this. Suddenly, everyone seemed to be awakened and couldn't help but be startled. Suddenly, Nami was very excited and used her power to melt a piece of gold from the proverb. Then he walked to the air door that Karu opened and threw the gold in. Then, everyone saw the piece of gold falling on the ground in a different space, lying there quietly. Such a scene immediately made everyone happy. In this way, they don't have to worry about how to bring the literati to get more gold. Soon, Nami melted all the gold on the proverb and stored it all in Karu's alien space. Gold worth 5 trillion belly was piled together like a mountain, and everyone who saw it looked at it with burning eyes. After that, he put their luggage that they had moved from the melee into the upper space. This ship of proverbs will no longer be needed. After handling the golden luggage, Sanji set off with Karu. At this time, Luffy told the others separately from Jung Jun. Next, we may have an unprecedented large-scale battle. You are also very likely to encounter the strongest group of enemies in history. So before that, you all should prepare well and be ready for the upcoming battle. After hearing Luffy's words, everyone was gearing up and their eyes were burning. For so long, they have never had a hearty battle. This time, I can finally show off my skills. Soon, everyone was making preparations for the war. And Luffy found Usopp. Usopp, have you bought enough gunpowder? Usopp nodded and said, that's enough. There's a lot more. Luffy's eyes suddenly condensed when he heard this, and he spoke in a deep voice. Before we set off, make a super buggy bullet. I want everyone to know the consequences of those who dare to take advantage of our crew. Luffy's aura made Usopp shudder. But this time it was to bring Robin back, and he wanted to do his best. Then he looked at Luffy and nodded seriously and said, Luffy, don't worry, I promise to build a bomb that will shock the whole world. While the crew members were making preparations for the war, Luffy quietly arrived at the Carrera Company headquarters alone. He hid in a tree and looked at the Carrera Company headquarters building from a distance. When he and Karoo returned to the dock, he discovered that all the CP9 members of Rob Lucci were missing. Because I know that in addition to Robin, these people's goals also include the Pluton design that Ace Baku knows. That's why he came here to check on the situation. Observation Hockey unfolds. Luffy quickly found Ace Bagu's location in the building based on the aura he felt from Ace Bagu when he saw him in the morning. And Luffy suddenly discovered that with Ace Bagu, there was also the aura of Rob Lucci. Then, he sneaked into the building quietly and got close to the wall of the room where they were. Inside the room, Ace Bagu is sitting at a desk. In front of him, there are Rob Lucci, Kaku, and Khalifa. Looking at the three people, Ace Bagu's eyes were full of shock and he said in disbelief. Lucci, what did you just say? You three are actually members of the world's official government. And Lucci, can't you speak? Rob Lucci looked cold and said in a low voice. Okay, Ace Baku, stop saying useless things. You should know why we told you our identities, right? We have been lurking next to you for 5 years just for that thing. Originally, We made a series of careful plans to obtain that thing, but suddenly something unexpected happened. Our plan was disrupted by the Straw Hat Boy, so we have to come to you now. Okay, tell me quickly, where are the blueprints for Pluton? Hearing Rob Lucci so directly mention the existence of Pluton's design, Ace Bagoo's eyes couldn't help but dim a bit. Sure enough, the government has already been targeting me. But when I saw it was you, I was still very surprised. Pluton's blueprint. I've ruined it. Hearing Ace Bagoo's words, Rob Lucci suddenly snorted and said, our 5 years of lurking around you were not a waste of time. We know you're afraid of being alone. With that said, Rob Lucci glanced at a poster of Nico Robin posted in Ace Bagoo's room, and then continued. You are afraid of this woman's power and that she will one day resurrect Pluton in this world. So you have always retained a strength that was enough to fight against her at that time. We have already investigated your identity and past clearly, Ace Bagoo. You can't fool us. Hurry up and tell us the whereabouts of Pluton's design drawings, don't waste time. Ace Bagoo took a deep breath after hearing this, but showed a look of letting go of everything and said, now that you know me so well, then you should know that no matter how you ask, I will never tell you. So don't waste your time. If you want to kill me, do it quickly. Ace Bagoo looked at the 3 people opposite him with a calm face, ready to face death. But what makes Ace Bagoo strange is that none of the 3 people have the intention to take action. What made Ace Bagoo even more puzzled was that he suddenly laughed when he saw Rob Lucci. Just listen to Rob Lucci say, Kaku, check his pulse. As soon as he finished speaking, Kaku stepped forward and pressed his hand on Ace Bagoo's pulse. Ace Bagoo was becoming more and more confused at this time. Then, he listened to Rob Lucci start to say, Ace Bagoo, actually we had a hypothesis about the Pluton design very early on. Originally we were not so sure that this hypothesis was true. But when I saw you wanting to die so happily, I became even more sure. Next, just listen to what I have to say. You kept the Pluton blueprints so you could use them against Nico Robin one day. So you will definitely ensure that this design can be passed down. But when you want to die, if this design is still in your hands, then it loses the possibility of being passed down. You're not stupid enough not to think of that. Latin. Actually, you've entrusted it to someone else, right? Ace Bagoo couldn't control his heartbeat when he heard this, but he still managed to stay calm. Just listen to Rob Lucci continue. Then, let's continue with our hypothesis. For the past 5 years, we have been secretly observing everyone around you. We found that if there is anyone who is worthy of your trust and can let you entrust your design drawings to him, it is only us, the 5 major foremen. Of course, you have never looked for me or Kaku, so we must be excluded. The only ones left are Barry, Tillstone, and Pulley Lulu. When he said this, Rob Lucci gestured to Khalifa, who nodded. Then he walked to the door and opened the door. The 3 Barry men were lying at the door covered with bruises, motionless. Barry, Tillstone, Bipoli, Ace Bagoo exclaimed with worry on his face, but the other party didn't react at all. At this time, Rob Lucci continued. I'm sorry, we already interrogated and investigated the 3 of them before looking for you. After our various inquiries and tests, we found the 3 of them don't know anything about Pluton's design drawings. Hearing this, Ace Bagoo's expression became extremely serious, and the worry on his face became more and more intense. Rob Lucci suddenly said a name at this time. Katie Fram. The moment he heard this name, Ace Bagoo's pupils trembled, his heart stopped beating for a moment, and his expression was obviously shocked. Seeing the other party's behavior, Rob Lucci smiled lightly and continued. According to the government's information, the legendary shipbuilder Tom has 2 apprentices. Quote, one is you, and the other is Katie Frame, who was reported to have died 8 years ago. Originally there was no problem with this matter. But, you should still remember it. 4 years ago, a man suddenly came to Carrera Company and said he wanted to visit you. He gave his name at the time, and that name was Katie Fram. When he heard this, Ace Bagoo's heartbeat was getting faster and faster. No matter how much he wanted to calm down, he couldn't control it. Just listen to Rob Lucci continue. In other words, Tom's other apprentice is still alive. And he still lives in the city. However, now he has changed his name to Frankie. When Rob Lucci said Frankie's name, Ace's heart beat faster and faster, and cold sweat broke out uncontrollably on his face. Rob Lucci continued, "Concerning Frankie, we can't find out his history no matter how much we check, which further confirms that he is Katie Flam. And you are from the same school. Give him the design drawings at a time when no one is paying attention. This is the best option." Having said this, Rob Lucci suddenly focused his eyes, looked at Ace Bagu and said in a deep voice, "Although what I said is all hypothesis, there is no evidence. But your ever-increasing pulse tells me that this hypothesis is established." At this point, Ace Bagu could no longer calm down and shouted angrily, "You fools, do you know how many people will die in the world if this weapon is resurrected? Everyone will fight for this, fighting to the death for this weapon." Rob Lucci looked indifferent and said, "It seems you don't trust our government, Ace Baku. Our government will definitely use this weapon to bring an end to the era of great pirates and turn it into a righteous fighting force." Ace Bagu glanced at the three Berry people who fell to the ground and said in a deep voice, "Now that things have happened, how dare you talk about justice? It's because of your government's secret plan that Mr. Tom." Boom. When Ace Bagu was talking, Rob Lucci kicked him in the face. Then he said in a deep voice, "Be careful what you say, Ace. Do you think you are still my boss?" At this time, Khalifa said from the side, "Hurry up and find Frankie. We have to get back to Annie's lobby before the last train tonight. There's not much time left." Rob Lucci nodded after hearing this and said to Ace Bagu, "Sorry, Ace Baku, we don't have time to play with you anymore. You just die here." As soon as he finished speaking, Rob Lucci stretched out a finger, preparing to use the finger pistol to end Ace Bagu's life. Boom. At this moment, there was a loud noise. The outer walls exploded. I saw a man wearing a straw hat break through the wall and kicked Kaku away next to Ace Baku. Then, a low and angry voice sounded, "Hurry up and finish your mission and go back to Annie's lobby." I can't help but want to go there and vent my anger. Luffy knows that these people will definitely not take Robin back unless they complete their mission. That way he wouldn't be able to let Robin see their determination, nor would he be able to dispel the fear in Robin's heart. So after these people had found the second mission target, he rushed out. When Luffy appeared, everyone present was obviously shocked. They had no idea anyone was nearby. "Straw Hat Boy!" Ace Bagu exclaimed. Luffy ignored the other party for the time being, just staring straight at Rob Lucci. At this moment, Rob Lucci's eyes were full of fighting spirit. From the moment he knew Luffy appeared on the island, he became interested in this world-famous villain. He believes that with his true strength, he can definitely defeat this celebrity who has been a hot topic since his debut. "Lucci, the mission is urgent." Khalifa saw the strong fighting spirit in Rob Lucci's eyes and reminded him. "She is a little afraid of Luffy's strength. After all, the gap between her and Rob Lucci is too far." Rob Lucci stared straight at Luffy, frowned, and spoke in a deep voice. "I don't know why you didn't stop us, but you said you were coming to Annie's lobby, right? I'll be there, waiting for you." After leaving a message of challenge to Luffy, Rob Lucci left here with Kaku and Khalifa. At this time, Ace Bagu couldn't help but asked curiously, "Straw Hat, why are you here?" After hearing this, Luffy told Ace Bagu about Robin's departure. After that, he continued, "I learned about their plan from Blueno. That's why I came here to find you." After listening to Luffy's explanation, Ace Bagu understood, with a look of surprise in his eyes, and sighed to himself. "I didn't expect that Nico Robin would choose to leave you in order to protect you from harm. So it turns out that I have always misunderstood this woman." Because of the reports from the world government, Ace Bagu always thought that Robin was the son of a devil and wanted to resurrect the ancient weapon Pluton. But when Luffy said it now, he immediately understood that those reports about Nico Robin must have been forged by the government. At this moment, his impression of Robin and Straw Hat Crew changed. Based on his contacts, the Straw Hat Crew is not as evil as reported in the news. On the contrary, he also felt that pirates like Straw Hat Crew were different from other pirates, and even did much better things than the world government. Ace Bagu suddenly looked at Luffy and asked, "So you want them to complete the task quickly, and then go to Annie's lobby to rescue Nico Robin and make Nico Robin change his mind?" Luffy nodded and said, "That's right. Seeing Luffy nodding in confirmation, Ace Bagu's expression suddenly became heavy and he said very seriously. Straw Hat, do you know where Enies Lobby is? That is the court directly under the world government. The total number of permanent marine troops and government officials is more than 10,000. Although the CP9 organization to which Rob Lucci and the others belong is a secret unit, I have heard about it. I heard that this organization is the secret assassination force of the world's main government, and everyone is terrifyingly powerful. With so many powerful enemies gathered together, it's impossible for just you Straw Hat crew to go there and bring Nico Robin back. Luffy said calmly without changing his expression after hearing this. They're just trash fish, not even our real enemy. That bullshit CP9 Commander Spandam has a golden phone bug that can activate Buster Call. This golden phone bug can attract 10 warships led by 5 naval headquarters vice admirals. Each warship will be accompanied by 1,000 marine elite combat workers, including colonels and colonels from the naval headquarters. These are our real opponents. Hearing Luffy's words, Ace Baku's eyes nearly bulged out of shock. His face was covered with cold sweat. Yinbi said in shock. Straw Hat, are you crazy? You know that your opponent is such a powerful enemy, but you still want to lead your crew to die. Luffy looked at Ace Bagu with a firm expression and a low voice, speaking word by word. I will take my crew and kill them. Let the entire Enies Lobby disappear from the map. I will use this to tell everyone what will happen if they target my people. Hearing Luffy's words, Ace broke into a cold sweat. He looked at Luffy without blinking, and he saw infinite confidence in his eyes. He had never seen this kind of strong confidence and momentum in anyone before. When he saw her today, he had a deep admiration for Luffy from the bottom of his heart. I see. Ace Bagu suddenly exhaled a long breath, looking determined. Then, he continued, the official train to Enies Lobby leaves at 7 p.m. From then on, the sea train will stop running. And at that time, the tsunami Akura Ragnar will also come. Ordinary boats can't reach Enies Lobby. Having said this, Ace Bagu looked at Luffy and spoke again. If you want to go to Enies Lobby and bring Nico Robin back, come to the warehouse behind the garbage disposal plant during that time. I'll start another sea train for you right there. After hearing what Ace Bagu said, Luffy immediately thanked Ace Bagu. Thanks. He originally knew that when the tsunami came, they would not be able to sail. So Luffy came here to find Ace Bagu for this reason. Unexpectedly, the other party brought it up first. It was just enough time for him to ask again. At this moment, Ace Bagu's expression suddenly became very hesitant, as if he wanted to speak but could not. Luffy asked upon seeing this. Is there anything else you can do? Ace Bagu struggled for a while after hearing this, then looked at Luffy and said. Although Lucci and the others are looking for Frankie now, that guy will definitely not speak. Before asking about the whereabouts of Pluton's design, they should take Frankie to Tongfa Island. FFFLX. Having said this, Ace Bagu changed his tone of request. If you have a chance, can you bring Frankie back? Hearing what Ace Bagu was talking about, Luffy smiled slightly and said. I plan to make Frankie the shipwright on my ship, so I will definitely bring him back. Ace Bagu was stunned for a moment when he heard this. He didn't expect Luffy to have such plans. But when he thought that there was someone willing to take in Frankie, and it was a pirate group that looked good like Straw Hat Crew, Ace Bagu felt as if a stone had fallen in his heart. He naturally knows why Frankie stayed on this island. But he watched helplessly as Frankie refused to forgive himself, but he was unable to do anything about it. Now, if Luffy takes him away, Frankie can get rid of those painful memories and start a new life. Thinking of this, Asiba said to Luffy very sincerely. Thanks. After making an agreement with Ace Bagu, Luffy left here and returned to the dock where the Straw Hat Crew was located. Because of the approaching tsunami, the dock is currently closed. Only the Straw Hat Crew is still gathered at the motto inside, making final preparations. Luffy told the rest of the people about his agreement with Ace Bagu. After that, all they had to do was wait for that moment to come. At about 6:30 in the evening, Luffy and others had made all preparations and arrived at the warehouse Ace Bagu said in advance. Inside the warehouse, there is a sea train with a rocket head shape parked. Oh, you are here. The person who spoke was Kokoro, whom Luffy and the others met at the platform at the beginning. Zimoni on the side saw Luffy and others, and jumped up and shouted. They are pirate brothers and sisters who have a lot of gold. Seeing these two people appearing here, everyone in the Straw Hat crew couldn't help but raise questions. Grandma Kokoluo, Kimoni, why are you here? Kokoluo took a sip of wine and smiled. The tsunami is coming soon. If we stay at that small platform, we will be submerged by the tsunami, so we return to the Seven Waters capital. Quote. I have heard what Ace Bagu said about you. You are very brave. You even dare to break into places like Eni's lobby. I admire you very much, so I decided to drive this sea train for you. Pooh, Luffy thanked Kokoro. Then I'll trouble you, Grandma Kokoluo. Kokoro laughed again when he heard this. You little brat are so polite. NQQQ. After that, Luffy and others waited inside. At about 6:50, Sanji called. After Luffy connected, Sanji's voice was quickly heard. Luffy, I saw Robin. She got on the last train with the people from the government. The government officials also kidnapped a pilot who looked like a pervert. Now they have started to leave early. Luffy frowned upon hearing the news. Luckily he kept Sanji watching. If they really wait until after 7 o'clock to set off from here, they may have to put a long distance away from Robin. At that time, it is still unknown whether Robin will be taken directly to the Gate of Justice when he arrives at Eni's lobby. After receiving the news, Luffy said to Sanji, I see. You come back with Karu now. I'll ask Vivi to pick you up. After hanging up the phone, Luffy asked Vivi to pick up Sanji and the others. At Vivi's speed, they returned to Straw Hat crew in just a minute or so. After everyone arrived, Luffy spoke to Kokoro. Grandma Kokoluo, let's set off now. As soon as Luffy finished speaking, a voice suddenly came from the door. Etc. When everyone heard the news and went out, they saw Frankie's family rushing in outside the warehouse door. They all cried and begged Luffy. Straw Hat, please, take us with you. We heard from the boatman at Carrera that you were going to Eni's lobby. Our eldest brother was taken away by people from the government. We wanted to chase him, but we couldn't cross Akula Ragnar. Please, take us with you. We want to rescue our eldest brother. Looking at the crying people across from him, Zoro couldn't help but said something doubtful. The boatman, we don't remember telling any of the boatmen about us. As soon as Zoro finished speaking, he saw a foreman from Barry who had not fully recovered from his injuries standing up behind Frankie's family. That's what we said. Straw Hat, take us with you too. Those guys turned out to be traitors to our company, and we must restore the reputation of Carrera Company and Mr. Ace Bagu. That's right, we are very powerful and can also help you. Several foremen and Frankie's family looked excited and looked at Luffy firmly. But what made all of them feel discouraged for a moment was that Luffy said calmly. You are too weak. If you go, you will only get in our way. Hearing Luffy say this, all of them were deeply shocked. But out of their own strong feelings, they still pleaded again. Please, Straw Hat, we can't just leave our big brother alone. Yes, Straw Hat boy, you. Just take us with you. We won't cause you any trouble. Please, Straw Hat. Looking at these people, Luffy had no choice but to nod and agree to them. But still reminded, when you get there, you can figure out how to protect yourselves, and we won't distract you. Everyone was extremely excited when they heard Luffy agreed. Great, we can go and save my brother. Thank you, Straw Hat. We won't cause you any trouble. Straw Hat, we don't have to get on the train. We'll follow you in the Imperial Blue. Just let them grab the back of the car. Well, see you later, kid. Frankie's family disappeared at the door in an instant. Luffy, the others, and the three foremen quickly boarded the train. After saying goodbye to Ace Bagu, they rushed out of the warehouse in Rocket Man under the leadership of Kokoro. The moment they rushed out of the warehouse, Frankie's family also chased them on two oversized blues. He fired his claw hook and caught Rocket Man on the back of the car. The group of people officially gathered and headed towards Eni's lobby. Dark night. The wind howled and the waves rolled. Luffy and his team rode behind Smoking Tom in Rocket Man and quickly approached Eni's lobby. On the way, they crossed many waves and met another frog blocking their way. According to Kokoro's introduction, the frog named Hengang was Frankie's friend when he was a child, and they had a very good relationship. So the frog joined their team. After sailing for an unknown amount of time, they finally saw a particularly bright place in front of them in the dark night. See, that's Eni's lobby. There is no night on that island, so it is also called the island that never sleeps. Everyone, get ready for battle. The moment they saw Eni's lobby, everyone became excited and full of energy. At this time, Barry simply drew a sketch of Eni's lobby and said to the others, "I've been here before for track repairs. Although I don't remember it clearly, the basic terrain of Tongfa Island is like this." Listening to Barry's words, everyone in the Straw Hat crew saw. Eni's lobby mainly consists of 4 parts. They are the main entrance, the main island, the court, and the Tongfa Tower. The main entrance, main island, and court are on a small island, and the judicial tower is a separate island. Between and below the 2 islands are bottomless abyss. After passing the main gate, the rest of the place is surrounded by a huge waterfall formed by sea currents. So if you want to log in, you can only go through the main entrance. At the very end of the Justice Tower is the Gate of Justice. After everyone had a general understanding of the terrain of Eni's lobby, Barry continued to speak to Luffy and others. After this Gate of Justice, you can only reach 2 places. One is Naval Headquarters, which represents Marine's highest combat capability. The other is a deep-sea prison where the most evil criminals are imprisoned, impelled down. If we can't rescue Nico, Robin and Frankie within the straight line from the main entrance to the Gate of Justice, we have no chance. After Barry finished speaking, the expressions of everyone in the Straw Hat crew suddenly became serious. Seeing this scene, Barrington felt relieved and said, "It seems that you realize that rescuing the 2 of them is not an easy task. You definitely can't do it with your strength alone. So when you get to Eni's lobby, we and Frankie's family will help you take the lead, attract the guards near the main entrance, and open the door for you. Then you go directly through the main entrance. This will save you a lot of energy and allow you to concentrate on dealing with the CP9 people. Among us, you are the only ones capable of dealing with CP9. So you must conserve your strength." As soon as Barry finished talking, he found that no one in Luffy's group responded to his plan. He asked, suddenly confused, "Straw Hat Boy, did you hear clearly what I just planned?" At this time, Luffy suddenly turned to look at him and said in a deep voice, "What plan you mentioned is completely unnecessary. All you have to do is don't cause us any trouble, that's enough." Quote. It's not that we realize it's not easy to rescue them too, but because Eni's lobby has arrived. After Luffy finished speaking, everyone in the carriage except the Straw Hat crew was stunned. Then, they looked outside through the window and saw an iron fence appearing in front of them. After the iron fence, there is the first level with the symbol of the World Palace, the main gate. The moment they saw the main entrance, everyone was ready to fight. However, seeing Rocket Man getting closer and closer to the iron fence, but still showing no signs of slowing down, several boatmen in Barry and Frankie's family suddenly exclaimed, "It's about to hit. Break. Break quickly." Hearing these exclamations, Kokoro took a big sip of wine and laughed. "The brakes on this sea train are broken. Once it starts, it won't stop." Boo! When Kekuluo finished speaking, these people all exclaimed, "What?" After the exclamation, there were sounds of worry. "No, if this continues, we will cause a lot of casualties before we even land. Hurry up and disconnect Emperor Blue from the train. Everyone, be prepared to jump off the train and wait until the sea train knocks the fence open before we climb back up." Okay, that's it. Everyone quickly thought of countermeasures. After disconnecting Emperor Blue from the train, one by one, they stood on the edge of the sea train, ready to jump off at any time. However, at this moment, they saw the Straw Hat crew jumping onto the roof of the sea train. One by one, they stood quietly on the roof of the car, unmoved at all. Seeing such a scene, those watching were worried and exclaimed, "What are you doing, Straw Hat? It's very dangerous to stand there. Hurry up and get to the side, prepare to jump into the army. Hurry up, we're about to hit you." Seeing that the sea train was about to hit the fence, the 3 foremen and Frankie's family were ready to jump off the train. At this moment, they saw a figure suddenly flash out from among the Straw Hat crew. Kang, Kang, accompanied by 2 sounds of swords being unsheathed, the light and shadow of swords flashed away. The next second, all of them saw in disbelief that the huge iron fence in front was like tofu, with a huge exit cut out. While everyone was still stunned, the sea train had successfully passed through the fence. At this time, each of them woke up from a dream and marveled. Quote, exclamation mark, quote. To lift such a huge iron fence. Is this the rumored strength of Straw Hat Crew? Just when everyone was amazed. Boom, sizzling. With a loud rumble and the screeching sound of the bottom of the train rubbing against the land, the sea train finally rushed to the land in front of the main entrance of Annie's lobby. After rushing onto the land, the Straw Hat Crew jumped out of the car with Kokura and Kimonini, and landed firmly on the land in a flash. But Rocket Man continued to slide, all the way along the steps in front of the main entrance, heading towards the huge main entrance. Seeing this scene, some members of Frankie's family and the foreman on the train exclaimed, "Hurry up and jump out of the car, we're going to hit you." Quick, with screams of surprise, they all jumped out of the car in panic. Boom! Soon, a huge roar sounded. After Rocket Man hit the huge and solid main gate, the powerful counterattack rebounded the train back, causing the car body to roll over, and finally landed on the steps. The sea train suddenly rushed in, making all Marine and official personnel stunned. They were staring blankly at the sea train that made such a big noise. The air fell into silence for a moment. At this time, an exclamation suddenly came from the Marine in front of the main entrance. Quote, exclamation mark, quote. As soon as these words came out, all Marine and official staff seemed to have come to life again, and their attention shifted to Luffy and others. The next second, they all raised their knives and guns, and rushed towards Luffy and the others. "They're intruders. Catch them. How dare you break into Annie's lobby? You must not let them go. Come on." Amidst the screams, hundreds of guards from Fuko rushed over at the same time. At the same time, a guard in charge of contact immediately dialed the phone number. "This is the main entrance. The main entrance is calling. Sir, and the main island." The phone bug was quickly answered, and calls were received to both the main island liaison officer and Spandam. Spandam spoke. "What's wrong? What's going on?" The liaison officer at the front door looked at the people who appeared in front of him and reported with a horrified expression. "Intruder found at the main entrance. The other party it's the Straw Hat Crew." Boom. The moment he heard the name, Spandam was so frightened that he almost fell off his chair. I suddenly broke out in a cold sweat and my nose ran out. Meanwhile, Luffy's side, when seeing hundreds of Marines rushing over, Frankie's family and the three foremen took out their weapons and prepared for battle. "Come on, let you experience the strength of our Frankie family. The boatmen in the Seven Rivers City are not just for a living." The two groups of people roared loudly at the same time, preparing to attack. But at this moment, suddenly, from the corner of their eyes, they saw figures flashing out from behind them. Don't wait for them to react. The next second, they were extremely shocked to see it. Zoro held two knives in his hands and swung them forward. A whirlwind passed by, and dozens of guards on the same route were eliminated in an instant. Sanji, on the other hand, went deep into the crowd alone. I saw a dazzling kick, and almost all the people flew into the air. Usopp took out his slingshot, and the gunpowder stars used to deal with the miscellaneous fish exploded in the crowd, and dozens of guards were eliminated in the blink of an eye. Chopper transformed into a reindeer form, and after his horns were strengthened, he used a pair of extremely huge and powerful antlers to rush through the crowd. Even without anyone else taking action, half of the hundreds of guards who rushed over were eliminated in the blink of an eye without being able to fight back. All of this happened at the same time, within just a few seconds. Seeing such amazing fighting power, the three foremen, Frankie's family, and Marine across from him were all dumbfounded. Frankie's family and the foreman. 4 people actually killed half of hundreds of enemies in an instant. I didn't expect the Straw Hat Crew to be exactly as rumored. Each one of them is a monster with ridiculous strength. The Marines and government officials on the opposite side are completely powerless to fight back. On the other hand, Marine was shocked. What kind of monsters are they? No, it's completely unstoppable. The opponent is too strong. Support. Requesting support. While the Marines were wailing for help, they were being killed quickly like melons and vegetables. The liaison officer was so frightened that he went crazy. Seeing that half of the hundreds of Marines in front of him fell down in the blink of an eye, they immediately shouted repeatedly. Support. Requesting support. Hearing the panicked voice of the other party, Spandam suddenly panicked. What's wrong? Guard, answer me quickly. What happened? The liaison officer looked at the people who kept falling to the ground, his expression turned desperate. Rui said. 400. After hearing this, Spandam was immediately confused. 400. What 400? The liaison officer said in horror. What I'm reporting now is the number of casualties. No, it's already 500 now. No, 600. On the other end of the phone, Spandam listened to the guard's report, became more and more frightened and confused, and asked. How many casualties are there? Give me an exact number. The liaison officer looked at the scene in front of him where only a few people were still standing, and said in despair and horror. The casualties are now halfway through. This man, as the last enemy in front of the main entrance, was kicked away by Sean Pei. Before losing consciousness, he struggled to make one last sound. 8 people. Hearing this accurate report, Pandam suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. Idiot. So there are only 8 people. After saying that, he hung up the phone with great relief. The next second, his previous nervousness and fear completely disappeared, and he snorted with disdain. HMPH. That straw hat. I thought he was so powerful. You brought a group of people here with all your strength, but you only managed to injure 8 of us. Really, I was actually scared by his threats before. Come to think of it, I really worried too much. There are as many as 10,000 guards on this island. There are only a few of them. I'm afraid they have been beaten so hard that they are running away. Wow, ha 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 ha. Luffy sighed, seeing that about 800 guards were eliminated in an instant. The 3 foremen and Frankie's family were all dumbfounded. Everyone opened their mouths in shock, and their eyeballs were so wide that they looked like they were about to burst out. What kind of monsters are these people? It's like a god of death. The enemy doesn't even have the strength to fight back. Only the 4 major combatants have taken action, and the strongest Straw Hat Boy has not taken action yet. The Straw Hat crew is terrible. When these people were amazed and sighing, Luffy slowly walked forward with the remaining people, while speaking softly. Let's go. Next level. Hearing this sentence, Frankie's family suddenly became energized. While running towards the huge and thick stone door ahead, he shouted excitedly. Let us, the 3 strange brothers of Frankie's family, help you open this door. That's right. Leave it to us. The 3 of us are born with strange strength. Leave this kind of strength work to us. Come on, 3 brothers of Wei Li. The 3 strange brothers are charging. Frankie's family all cheered for the 3 of them. And the 3 people were extremely excited and ran towards the huge stone door. It was finally time for them to perform. And then right then. Kang, boom. The sound of a sword being unsheathed and the sound of a roar sounded at the same time. Then everyone saw the huge and solid gate of the road. Half of it was neatly cut into a huge hole, and the other half was kicked out of a huge hole. Such a scene once again made the 3 foremen and Frankie's family dumbfounded. The 3 Gueli brothers also stopped halfway and were stunned. All of them were stunned in place, with their mouths wide open, looking astonished, like puppets. The Straw Hat crew maintained a constant pace from beginning to end, passing them step by step until they passed through the 2 holes and entered the main entrance. At this time, these people reacted one by one. I wiped the cold sweat off my face and couldn't help but marvel again. How could it be? The door that even the sea train couldn't break through was actually broken. They opened it so casually. Those 2 people are simply too strong. The Straw Hat crew never stopped from start to finish. They knew the door would be opened. Is this the legendary Straw Hat crew? They are really powerful. Just when everyone was amazed, someone suddenly shouted. Let's follow up quickly. We're at the main island gate ahead. After passing the main island gate, there will be more enemies. The Straw Hat crew will definitely not be able to handle it by then. Let's rush over to help. As soon as these words came out, everyone reacted immediately, and everyone became high-spirited again. I took 2 Emperor Blue and Frog Hangang and ran with the Straw Hat crew. At the same time, inside the main island, on a certain empty street, Rob Lucci and others were walking towards the court where Spam was, stretching out their clothes and Frankie. Suddenly, Robin's pupils trembled and he stopped. She looked back in shock. Although she couldn't see anything, she felt a familiar aura. At the same time, bursts of footsteps and shouts also sounded in the main island. Hurry! Support to the main gate. The Straw Hat crew is coming. When Rob Lucci heard these movements, the corners of his mouth suddenly curled up, and his eyes ignited with surging fighting spirit. HMPH. Is it really here? Others heard the sounds now. Frankie looked at Robin and smiled while listening to the vague voice. Straw Hat, it seems he is here to save you, Nicole Schwangian. Robin frowned, looking very painful. Frankie looked puzzled at this scene. What kind of expression are you looking at, Nicole Zarogian? They came to save you, aren't you happy? Why does it look so painful? It's almost like you don't want them to save you. Robin gritted his teeth, eyes filled with tears, and roared at Frankie. Who asked them to come to the rescue? I told them a long time ago that I would not come back to them. I don't want them to rescue me at all. Listening to Robin's angry roar, Frankie couldn't help sweating and said as if he was frightened. Why are you yelling at me? I didn't ask them to save you. At this time, Rob Lucci frowned and said in a deep voice. That's enough for you two. Let's go. We have to rush back to deliver our work. After Rob Lucci finished speaking, the group set off again, heading towards the Justice Tower. Luffy's side. After passing the main gate, they walked through a walkway and arrived in front of the Tianmen of the main island. There were fewer guards here than at the main gate, so they broke through with almost no separation. The group of people broke into the main island smoothly. The moment you enter the main island, a dense crowd of guards surrounded him. The streets, rooftops, and any place where people can stand are now full of people. Just now, the main island also received a report from the main gate. Although Spandam is stupid, they are not stupid. He could judge the situation by listening to the various wails on the phone. So at that time, all the guards on the main island were already summoned. And now, when the Straw Hat crew shows up, nearly 3,000 guards have gathered here. Moreover, guards continued to come here. The moment they saw the Straw Hat crew appear, all the guards who had been prepared shouted loudly and rushed towards them. At the same time, except for Luffy and Karu, all members of the Straw Hat crew dispersed and attacked enemies in all directions. Luffy, on the other hand, exerted heaven-defying understanding on them from beginning to end, allowing them to maximize their combat skills and abilities in this battle. Karu is an exception. It does not need to fight. Just always pay attention to the situation on the field and be ready to use your abilities to provide corresponding support. For example, it now has a lot of food supplies stored in its different space. If anyone needs it, it will go to support the supplies as soon as possible. As for Luffy, his knowledge is enough to cover the entire Enies lobby, so he knows Robin's location clearly. Knowing that the other party has not been taken away yet, he is not in a hurry. He just kept at the same speed as the others were fighting and walked forward leisurely. With the Straw Hat crew around, no one can even get close to him. Just when the fierce battle started, the 3-day foreman and the Frankie family finally arrived at the scene with Emperor Blue and Hengang. Before everyone entered the door, they all shouted with high spirits. Straw Hat, we are here to support you. Straw Hat, we are here to support you. The 3 foremen and Frankie's family shouted together and rushed into the main island gate. The first thing that caught their eyes was Santo Ryu Zoro, who was holding 2 swords in his hands and holding a sword in his mouth. Everyone saw that hundreds of people had gathered around Zoro, and they were about to completely surround him. Seeing this scene, they shouted one after another. It's Roronoa. No, he's going to be surrounded, let's go help him. Roronoa, wait, we're here to help you. Amid shouts, Frankie's family and the 3 foremen rushed over there with weapons in hand. At this moment, Zoro looked at the more and more guards surrounding him, suddenly raised the corner of his mouth, revealed an evil smile, and said in a deep voice. Finally, we have gathered a little more people, so we don't have to go through so much trouble to find them one by one. As he said that, Zoro suddenly focused his eyes. 3 sword-style black rope big tornado. A loud shout. I saw Zoro changing his body shape and swinging his sword. Suddenly, a tornado of sword energy suddenly rose from the sky. Hundreds of guards in a circle were instantly swept into the sky by the hurricane. In the hurricane, like a sharp blade, the body was cut with oozing wounds. Howling incessantly, in an instant, hundreds of enemies around Zoro were easily eliminated. And he continued to rush to the next place where the enemy existed without stopping. Just after he left, Sanjujia and the three major foremen all fell from the sky. They were also affected by a powerful attack just now and were blown into the sky. Fortunately, because they were far away, they were not involved in the tornado, but were affected by the aftermath. They only suffered some minor scratches and damage from the fall. Soon, these people jumped up from where they were. Looking at Zoro's retreating back, they all had sweat on their foreheads and their eyes showed shock. Roronoa is too strong. He doesn't need our help at all. Yes, if we had been sucked into that tornado just now, we would have been killed like these Marines. I think we should find another person to help. That's right. After determining the conversion target, these people's eyes scanned the battlefield faster. Soon, they saw Sanji not far away. At this moment, a lot of people gathered around Sanji. When everyone saw this scene, they immediately cheered. It's Blackfoot Sanji from the Straw Hat crew. He has been just kicking one by one with his feet. It seems that he does not have the large-scale destruction skills like Roronoa. Kick one by one with your feet, it looks like it's very hard. Very good. It's decided. Let's go help him. Soon, this group of people rushed towards Sanji with weapons raised. Sanji looked at the people surrounding him and said in deep thought. With so many trash fish put together, we can make a pot of chowder. As soon as he finished speaking, Sanji's feet were like a phantom, moving wildly in the crowd. Shuro, shoulder, leg meat. In the blink of an eye, he rushed to the most crowded place. At this moment, Sanji suddenly stood on his head, put his hands on the ground, and his feet were like windmills, spinning rapidly 360 degrees. Immediately, groups of people continued to fly out into the sky. It was as if he had turned into a rampaging top, kicking away all the people within a certain range around it, all of them ignoring the target. In just a few seconds, everyone around Sanji was cleared away. He took his time, lit a cigarette, and continued moving forward. Behind him, a large number of Marines and government officials who had been kicked away by him seemed to have become a mountain of meat. Just under the mountain of meat, Frankie's family and the three foremen were struggling to climb out, and they couldn't help but marvel. Oops, he was hit by someone who was kicked away by Blackfoot. Fortunately, our support was slow. If we had been quick to support him, he and these people would have been kicked away by ignoring the target. Just now, which fool just said that Blackfoot kicks slowly and hard? Quote, ... Silence. After everyone crawled out in embarrassment, they quickly regained their composure. Roronoa and Blackfoot are the strongest combat forces of the Straw Hat crew besides Straw Hat. They are both too strong and do not need our support at all. That's right, the two of them alone are enough. Let's find other people to support us. Look, isn't that the sniper of the Straw Hat crew? He is about to be approached by the enemy. Not good. Although that long-nosed sniper is very powerful, it will definitely be miserable if he gets close. Let's go quickly to support him. Long Nose, we are here to support you. Come on. Usopp sighed. He was using his slingshot to continuously aim and launch gunpowder stars. Although the clearing efficiency is very fast, there are too many enemies. Soon, someone was approaching little by little while he was loading ammunition. He saw hundreds of people around him rushing towards him at the same time. Some people jumped up with knives, while others rushed forward with guns. Everyone shouted excitedly. Finally close. Straw Hat crew's sniper. Come on. As long as we get close, he is no match for us. This idiot just used explosives to blow up hundreds of our friends from a long distance. We must teach him a lesson. Marine and the official staff cheered excitedly. At this time, Usopp raised the corner of his mouth and put his bow into his pocket bag. Looking at the enemies that were about to attack him, he let out a question. Who told you? I don't have the ability to fight at close range. After saying this, Usopp suddenly drank heavily for a week. He clenched his fist and punched out towards the crowd rushing forward. Boom! There was a loud bang. The figures of dozens of people in front were instantly covered by black smoke and fire. Boom, boom, boom. Huge explosions continued, as if bombs were exploding around Usopp's body, and a large area around him was enveloped in billowing black smoke and blazing fire. In just a few seconds, everyone in Usopp's vicinity was completely eliminated after blasting through numerous gunpowder stars. And he took out his slingshot again and shot in all directions while moving forward. Behind him, billowing black smoke dispersed. Frankie's family and the three foremen slowly got up. Their faces were as black as briquettes. While coughing violently, he spit out clouds of black smoke from his mouth. Looking at Usopp's back, they were shocked again. Quote, exclamation mark, quote. I thought that long-nosed guy was just a sniper, but I didn't expect that he was so strong at close range. His attacks seemed to explode, just like a bomb Superman. And we were all knocked down by the explosion so far away. I can't imagine how much harm those people hit by his explosion would suffer. This long-nosed guy is so strong. He doesn't need our support at all. It's been so long since we've been here, and we haven't successfully provided support once. The Straw Hat crew moved forward too fast. We ran behind them and all the enemies were wiped out by them. We couldn't meet any enemies at all. Boom. At this moment, the earth suddenly trembled. There was a loud rumble from the front. These people heard the sound and looked around. I saw two extremely large giant warriors, each with a weapon in their hands, appearing in front of the reindeer that was charging through the crowd. Seeing this scene, everyone immediately exclaimed, "No, it's the giants. That reindeer is in danger. We have to hurry up and support him. The giants are so powerful that we ordinary people can't stop them. Leave it to us." Oh, it's the three Wei brothers. Three brothers of Wei Li, charge. Defeat the giants. With a shout of encouragement, the three Wei brothers rushed towards the two giants with great courage. Others cheered for them and followed behind the three of them. Chopper's side. While he was charging through the crowd with his antlers, two giants suddenly climbed up from the alley near him and appeared near him. There is an intruder, nephew O. Yes, they woke us up from our sweet dreams. Deal with them quickly and let's continue sleeping, Cassie. Oh, after a brief conversation, the two giants each waved their weapons, preparing to clear out the reindeer in front of them first. When the Marines and government officials around them saw this scene, they all became extremely excited. It's Cassie and Omoi. Great, with them here, we can fight back. That's right, the power of the giants is at the monster level, and it is simply not something that ordinary people like this little reindeer and the Straw Hat crew can resist. Cassie, Omoi, go, kill this reindeer. Kill the Straw Hat crew. Listening to the cheers of the surrounding Marines and officials, and looking at the two huge figures in front of him, Chopper took out a small yellow ball from his backpack, looked firmly in his eyes, and shouted. You are not the only ones who are monsters. Competing strength. I won't lose. With a loud shout, Chopper swallowed the blue ball. Oh, an earth-shattering roar of a beast resounded throughout the audience. Everyone became extremely shocked and frightened at this moment, looking at the huge deer-shaped monster that suddenly appeared in front of the two giants with frightened and trembling eyes. Cassie and Omoi were obviously shocked. Both of them couldn't help but lean back, startled by the momentum of this huge deer-shaped monster. Then the deer-shaped monster roared again. Then raised one arm to block forward. The iron rods and giant axes swung by the two giants were easily blocked. The enlarged Chopper's body defense is extremely powerful, and ordinary swords and guns cannot even cut through his fur. After easily blocking the two attacks, Chopper punched out and Cassie was sent flying, smashing into a row of houses. Chopper, on the other hand, kept attacking and grabbed Omoi with both hands again and picked him up upside down. Rotate 360 degrees on the spot. Just accumulating strength until a certain moment. Dia, Chopper roared again. Omoi's huge body was thrown away by him. The hopes of the two guards were shattered in an instant. Everyone nearby looked at the huge monster in front of them with horrified expressions, but made no move. What a strong monster! Exclamation mark single quote. You can even hug the giants. What kind of strange power is that? Too strong. This monster is too strong. Amidst the exclamations of the guards, Tuba continued to attack. While attacking the enemies around him, he continued to move forward following the pace of other members. Frankie's family and the three foremen. At this moment, they were all lying on their backs, their bodies twisted, and they were placed together in a group, making it impossible to distinguish their arms and legs. Just when the three Gwali brothers were about to rush over to support them, Omoi's huge body flew towards them. The three of them charged up their strength at the same time to resist. But it was broken through in an instant and hit the wave of people coming from behind. Everyone, together with Omoi's huge body, kept sliding backwards, and finally became like this. Number. I didn't expect that a monster would suddenly appear here. Is the reindeer okay? Are you stupid? That monster is obviously the reindeer. Really? But how could a reindeer turn into a monster? Isn't that reindeer the Straw Hat Crew's pet? Why is it as strong as a monster? Such a monster only offers a bounty of 50 Baileys. Are the people in the palace trapped in their brains? What are we here for? It's been so long since the battle started, and we haven't even been able to help at all. I think it's because we didn't find the right target. You see, when we were at the main entrance just now, the four of them showed strong combat effectiveness. So we should go support others. That's right, we should go and support the remaining few. They are just walk-ons at first glance. I remember those walk-ons. During the previous live broadcast, they seemed to have flaws in their combat abilities. For example, the singer should only rely on her singing ability. Force. If you don't sing, it will be useless. Quote. Very good. Then let's go support her. With a new target in mind, these people quickly scanned the battlefield. Soon, they discovered Yuta's figure in a certain direction. Where? Oops. Look next to her and see a group of soldiers following her. Those soldiers look so strong and so fast. They must be an elite force. Hurry. We have to hurry to support her. Everyone regrouped and ran towards Yuta's direction again. Yuta's side. A large number of guards riding dogs suddenly appeared in front of her, with confidence on their faces and amusement in their eyes. When the other ordinary guards around saw this scene, they immediately exclaimed. It's the French dog force. Great, De Qian Zhao and the others are the first-level guards of this island. They are the strongest among our official guards. With them here, this woman will definitely not be our opponent. The French dog force is charging. Kill the Straw Hat Crew. Amidst the cheers, the guards of the French dog force were dispatched one after another. I saw that each police dog was extremely fast, like a fish swimming in the crowd, and soon surrounded Yuta. At this time, the guards of the French dog force suddenly laughed confidently. Humph, our encirclement has been formed, she is dead. Just rush over together and surround and kill her in the center. Go. Dozens of French dog guards rushed towards the center at the same time. The sharp blades in their hands shone coldly under the sunlight, looking at the extremely eunuchs. Seeing that there was nowhere to hide, Yuta smiled calmly and spoke calmly. Compared with my speed, you are far from enough. As soon as he finished speaking, Yuta's figure suddenly disappeared. Everyone was startled when they saw this scene. Especially everyone in the French dog troop looked shocked, their eyes filled with disbelief. Where? Suddenly, someone shouted and pointed in a certain direction. When everyone heard the sound and looked around, they only found that a French dog guard at that position seemed to have been greatly shocked, and flew out in one direction with a painful expression. Knocked away a large number of guards along the way. Found it, there, another person exclaimed and pointed in a certain direction. When everyone heard the sound and looked around, they still didn't see Yuta. And at the same time, another guard from the French dog force flew out and once again smashed a large number of people away. In just a few seconds, this situation happened more than a dozen times in the stadium. Until the last exclamation appeared, Yuta also kicked away the last Fian guard. It was like bowling, knocking away all the last people near her. Her moonwalk is comparable to teleportation. How could these people keep up with her speed? After taking care of everyone nearby, Yuta smiled, clapped his hands, and continued to move forward. After Yuta left, a group of people who were knocked away like bowling balls were slowly getting up from the ground. That's right, these people are the tenacious Frankie family and the three major foremen. Because they are far away, the impact will be smaller. Plus, the moment they saw a figure flying towards them. Also because of the distance, they had a little reaction time. They all immediately hid behind the huge three strange brothers. In the end, only the three Gwali brothers suffered the most damage. At this moment, all three of them had broken arms and legs, which was very miserable. No, I didn't expect that singer to be so good even if she doesn't sing. She's not strong. It's just that she's a bit ridiculously strong. We didn't even see her and she ended up like this. Which fool just said that she was just a walk-on? That she must have no fighting ability other than singing. Silence. After a short silence, someone spoke again. Okay, let's go support the others. The flaws of the remaining 3 are obvious. For example, the woman with the strange weapon seems to have to spit out a lot of bubbles from the weapon bit by bit before she can attack. With so many enemies here, she will definitely not be given so much time. That makes sense. She must be in a state of distress now because she is too busy avoiding the enemy to release the bubbles. Very good. Then let's go support her. What should we do with the 3 Gwali brothers? They are all seriously injured now. Someone suddenly reminded me. When everyone looked around, they found that one of the 3 people could hardly walk at this moment, and could not get up because his arms were too constricted. In short, it's just one word, miserable. After looking at a few people, Zanbai, the second in command of Frankie's family, made a decision quickly. Kiwei, Maz, you 2 help them take care of their injuries. The rest of you are coming with us to support the Straw Hat crew. We are here to save brother, we must do our part. After hearing the words of praise, everyone ignited their fighting spirit again and shouted in unison. Dit. After leaving the 2 behind, they quickly searched for Nami. Soon, a shout came from the crowd. Saw it, she was there. Everyone looked in the direction he pointed and saw Nami running around. The surrounding enemies are gathering more and more, and the situation looks very dangerous. Oops, she has attracted too many enemies. It looks like there are at least 500 of them. Why did that woman just run away to a place with people? If this continues, there will be more and more enemies chasing her. She must have been chased by so many people and ran away in fear. Let's go and support her. Okay, for the sake of Big Brother. Go ahead. There were loud shouts. Frankie's family and the 3 major foremen launched support again. Nami's sighed. Her figure shuttled flexibly through the alleys, attracting more and more enemies around her. The guards who had been surrounding her were all gnashing their teeth angrily. This woman is too flexible. It's like she knows where we're going to block her, and she can always escape from our encirclement. I don't know if it's my imagination, but I always feel like I can't hit this woman with a gun. Hey, woman, don't run away. Stop quickly and let us catch you. Stop. Listening to the roars behind him, Nami suddenly stopped and looked back at the people. Such a scene made these people stunned. It really stopped. Why did she stop? Is there any trap? No, this woman used a weapon to release bubbles to attack. There are no bubbles above our heads now. She is dead. Hey, woman, if you don't want to die, quickly raise your hands and surrender. A guard raised his gun and shouted. Nami immediately raised his hands and said after hearing this, I surrender. Seeing this scene, all the guards couldn't help but laugh proudly. But at this moment, they saw Nami suddenly raise the corners of her mouth, stick out her tongue, reveal a playful smile, and laugh. Stop, I lied to you. Suddenly, everyone gritted their teeth in anger and prepared to attack Nami. At this time, Nami suddenly said inexplicably, if so many people gather, the scene should be spectacular. Hearing Nami's inexplicable words, everyone was stunned. However, the next second, everyone's pupils suddenly shrank, and their expressions were extremely shocked and fearful. They saw that Nami's 5 fingers suddenly seemed to turn into white lightning. Not waiting for their reaction. Discharge. 50 million volts. Nami said softly with a smile. Then 5 electric currents, like winding snakes, pounced on this large group of more than 500 people. Crack, crack, just a crackling sound was heard, one infected one, like a plague, and the more than 500 people gathered together were all attacked by electricity. The powerful electric shocks continued, scorching everyone's bodies and causing their hair to explode. Looking from the outside, it seems that there are waves of skeletons appearing, and the scene is extremely spectacular and tragic. Seeing such a scene, Nami couldn't help but sigh. This fruit is really pervert. But I like it, hee hee. Nami raised the corner of her mouth and continued to move forward, following the pace of the others. At the same time, the group of people who were electrocuted by Nami were nearby. Frankie's family and the 3 foremen were all scorched black at the moment, their hair was exploding, and tingling electric currents were emanating from each of them from time to time, and they were twitching one after another. Why is there water here? Fortunately, the water came in during the middle of the power cycle. If it had started flowing in, we would have been killed just like those people. Look, this pool of water looks like the giant's tears. Someone yelled and looked in a certain direction. Others followed his gaze. They saw Cassie, who had been knocked down by Chopper before, lying in a pile of building ruins, crying loudly. His tears flowed down both sides and along the wall, just at their feet, and spread under the pile of electrocuted guards. Cassie herself was not harmed at all because she was in a building and the current was isolated by the earthen walls. Is that giant a child? Why is he crying after being knocked down? Who knows? Don't worry about him, let's go support the others. That woman just now was so strong that she could even discharge electricity from her body. She is just like a monster. That kind of powerful electric current is released casually. Who are the Straw Hat crew? Speaking of which, we haven't successfully supported once so far, and we haven't even killed an enemy. Do we really want to support them? Of course, we must do our part to save our eldest brother. Otherwise, wouldn't it be in vain? That's right, let's go then. Continue to support. Who will support next? Someone asked a question. At this time, boom, there was a loud noise from ahead. Everyone heard the sound and looked around. I saw a huge black iron ball smashing into a house. The iron ball was being pulled back slowly by a chain. Looking along the chain, they saw a strong man with his face covered and the word, guilty, carved on his arm. And there are more than a dozen such strong men. At this moment, the target is being aimed at Nuauchigao from several directions. Who are those guys? Can they swing such a heavy iron ball? I don't know. Anyway, it looks very strong. It destroyed a house in an instant. That woman is in danger, we have to help her quickly. I remember that woman seemed to use plants to attack people. Her plants could only work if they were arranged in advance. In this situation, she couldn't have time to arrange them. It's decided, let's go support her this time. After a period of impassioned discussion, these people once again rushed in the direction of Nokigao. Just after the group left, Luffy suddenly appeared nearby and came to Cassie's side. Osos, it has been 50 years, but we are here. We are a disgrace to Elbaf. Isis, listening to Cassie's cry, Luffy spoke. Are you soldiers of Elbaf? Cassie looked over after hearing the sound, and when she saw that the speaker was Luffy, she immediately turned her head back. Who are you? It's no use telling you. Osos. Luffy said, I know two of Elbaf's friends, they are Dory and Brigitte. I thought you might know him too. Upon hearing these two names, Cassie stopped crying immediately, looked at Luffy in shock, and asked. Who are you, CEBC? Why do you know the two leaders? Luffy knew that these two people were originally Dory and Brigitte's subordinates. 50 years ago, they went to find two leaders. But on the way, he was caught by the world government. The government also deceived them by saying that Dory and Brigitte were now in prison and wanted them to protect Enies lobby for 100 years for the government. Then the two leaders were released. And Cassie is crying now because it was breached after only holding it for 50 years. In this way, the two leaders will definitely not be released from prison. Knowing that this was a scam by the world government, Luffy told Cassie the truth. After hearing Luffy's words, Cassie suddenly exclaimed. Are you telling the truth? Are the two leaders really still dueling on that island? Luffy nodded. Suddenly, Cassie cried out again. Wow, it's great that the two leaders were not caught. I almost thought I would never see them again. After crying, there was only anger in Cassie's eyes. The world government actually deceived us. Straw Hat, let's help you kill them. Luffy shook his head and said after hearing this. They can just leave it to us. But I have another favor for you. Hearing Luffy say this, Cassie immediately spoke. You can just say that you are a friend of the leaders, and Omoi and I will try our best to do so. Seeing that Cassie agreed so happily, Luffy spoke. You have been here for so many years, you must know where the boats here are. Go find a boat for us and drive farther away from this island. When the time comes, I will contact you. When the time comes, you can drive back to pick us up. After Luffy finished speaking, he gave Cassie a phone bug. Cassie took the phone and said firmly, Don't worry, we will definitely help you with such a small matter. Then I'll trouble you. Luffy thanked him and left. And Cassie also went to find Omoi, ready to take action. Frankie's family here. When they arrived near Nokigao, before they could get close to support, they were shocked to see it. Nuauchi held a black vine in her hand, like an iron whip, crackling and dancing in the air, smashing all the dozen huge iron balls in the blink of an eye. Such a scene made Frankie's family and the 3 foremen stunned and couldn't close their mouths from ear to ear. No, isn't it? Such a huge iron ball was shattered. How on earth did she do it? She actually made the iron ball explode from the inside like a bomb. I can't believe it. That's a huge iron ball that can destroy a house in one go. Her destructive power is so amazing. She can even break such a huge iron ball. How powerful must this woman be? I thought she was just a sidekick, but I didn't expect that she is also the main combatant. What kind of pirate group is Straw Hat Crew? Why are they all so ridiculously strong? When everyone was sighing, they suddenly saw it in shock. After Nokigao crushed the iron body, the whip in his hand continued to dance. Like a swimming dragon, the iron body that was broken by her flew in all directions. And those iron ball fragments instantly seemed to turn into cannonballs after being hit, exploding huge craters in the ground everywhere. Countless guards and guilty jury members were knocked away by the powerful impact or hit and knocked down by exploding rocks. Frankie's family and the 3 foremen were not spared either. A piece of broken iron ball was welcomed. Boom! A roar exploded in front of them. Suddenly, rocks shot up into the sky and flew everywhere. They tried their best to defend and resist, but were eventually hit by several falling rocks. He suffered quite a bit of disability. Watching Nuo Chigao put away her long whip and walk away, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. It's so great. Fortunately, that woman is gone. If it comes again, we will really be killed. This woman's strength is really terrifying. We have to stay away from her. That's right. The strength of the Straw Hat Crew is too terrifying. We all have to stay away. No way near the Straw Hat Crew. The crowd fell into a brief silence. Suddenly, someone said something. By the way, aren't we here to support them? As soon as these words came out, the atmosphere became extremely awkward. No one spoke for a long time. At this time, someone whispered a suggestion. Why don't we stay far away and attack them with guns or cannons? Don't get close to them. As soon as these words came out, the others suddenly woke up and praised in unison, as if they were enlightened. Good idea. Soon, these people cheered up again. One by one they picked up guns and cannons from around them, looking for a target they can attack. There were people from the Straw Hat Crew on the battlefield on the ground, so they turned their attention to the rooftop. When they saw the guards on the roof who were also holding guns and cannons, these people suddenly became excited. It's up to them. Let's rush over and kill them. Okay, go ahead, everyone shouted, carrying guns and cannons, and ran towards the people on the roof, trying to get within shooting range. However, when they finally rushed into the shooting range, they saw a sudden shadow flash across the sky. Then, each of them felt as if they had seen a ghost, their chins dropped to the ground, and they looked at the scene in front of them in disbelief. As far as they can see, on the roofs on both sides, all places where there are guards are burning with cyan flames. The guards wrapped in green flames were wailing miserably, struggling in pain, and their bodies were dancing wildly. Seeing such a scene, they were all frightened. Boom! 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 Gunshots and cannon shots rang out among the flames. While those people were burning and struggling, someone undoubtedly pressed the weapon switch. Bullets and shells were flying all over the sky. However, what made Frankie's family and the 3 foremen shrink in fright was that a cannonball flew straight towards them. Boom! There was a roar. Dozens of figures flew into the sky. It only took a few minutes from when the Straw Hat Crew rushed to the island to fight. However, in this short period of time, there were not many soldiers left on the entire island out of a total of 10,000 soldiers. Among them, the main island, which has the largest concentration of troops, seems to be about to be breached at this moment. At this moment, in the last section of the defense line where the main island has very few troops left, a liaison officer is calling like crazy on the phone. Main island call. Main island call. Sir Spandam, please answer. Sir Spandam, please answer. Fool, answer the phone quickly. He has been calling like this since the Straw Hat Crew invaded the main island, and it has continued until now, but there has been no response. At this time, someone next to me responded. It's useless. He must have left the microphone in place again. I sent someone to deliver the phone bug to him a long time ago. It should be here soon. Inside the Justice Tower, Spandam was looking at the people who appeared in front of him with excitement and pride. Opposite him was Rob Lucci. Rob Lucci faced Spandam and said, "Long time no see, sir. 8 years ago, Katie Flam, the felon who attacked government officials in the Seven Waters capital, and Nico Robin, the criminal who attacked the Marine battleship in West Blue O'Hara 20 years ago, have been successfully escorted here and are now at the door. Stand by outside." After hearing Rob Lucci's report, Spandam suddenly raised the corners of his mouth, with unconcealable excitement in his eyes, and said, "You have worked hard, Lucci, Kaku, Khalifa." At this moment, a figure suddenly approached Rob Lucci and the three of them in the room. "Choppa, cha bang bang, quote. Exclamation mark quote. After this figure had a brief exchange with the three of them, he distanced himself and retreated to the side. Khalifa glanced at the fat figure, adjusted his glasses and said, "I knew you couldn't hold it in any longer, Fukuro." At this moment, where everyone in the venue was paying attention, Fukuro closed his eyes tightly, touched his fingers together, and spoke slowly. 6 styles, game hands together. After some calculations in his mind, Fukuro slowly opened his eyes and Taguchi said, "If a guard holding a weapon counts as 10 Dao power, then your Dao power is Janifa, 630 power. Kaku, 2200 power." Fukuro paused for a moment and suddenly exclaimed in disbelief, 4000 power. After Fukuro finished speaking, a voice suddenly couldn't help but sounded in shock. "Hey, are you mistaken? I have never heard of such a high power." The person who spoke was another person from CP9 Gebra. Fukuro nodded and replied, "It's true, everyone has become more powerful, cha pa pa pa. In this way, the strength ranking of our CP9 personnel will be revealed. First place, Rob Lucci, 4000 Dali. Second place, Kaku, 2200 power. Third place, Gebra, 2180 power. Fourth place, Facebook, 810 power. Fifth place, Fukuro, 800 power. Sixth place, Janifa, 30 power." Having said this, Fukuro paused, looked at Spandam, and continued. "The last one is the 7th one, Chief Spandam, 0.9 power." As soon as these words came out, Spandam suddenly felt extremely embarrassed, bared his teeth and yelled, "Hey, shut up, Fukuro, don't count me in. I don't care, because I am the commander. Besides, I still have a hidden sword." As he spoke, he sighed helplessly and said, "Never mind." Then, he regained his composure and turned his attention to Rob Lucci and the others. His eyes suddenly flashed with joy, and the corners of his mouth raised. "You have worked hard these past 5 years. Anyway, let me see the hope of the whole world first." After Spandam finished speaking, Robin and Frankie were quickly brought to him. Robin was wearing seastone handcuffs, and Frankie was tied up with huge chains. Seeing the two people appear, Spandam couldn't help laughing excitedly. Plus or minus ah, this is so cool. After laughing, Spandam looked at the two of them and said, "It's really a miracle that you survived the accident 8 years ago. Katie Fram. And you, a world-class dangerous person. The one we have been hunting for a long time. Nico Robin." Having said this, Spandam suddenly became sinister and said gloomily, "The world certainly doesn't know how great what we have done today. They won't know until years later. In my opinion, the old man in the current world government is too weak and incompetent. To achieve the goal, there must be sacrifices. We are fighting for peace for all mankind." At this time, Spandam suddenly became crazy. "Everyone who obstructs us should be killed. This is the price we must pay for peace. Anyone who does not obey us is a traitor to justice. All of them deserve to be executed. Wow ha 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 ha." Looking at Spandam laughing maniacally, Frankie suddenly thought of his master Tom, who was framed and killed by Spandam. Tom was unwilling to hand over the design drawings in the first place, which was why he ended up like that. When he thought of this, Frankie's eyes were filled with anger, and he suddenly opened his mechanically modified giant mouth, rushed over and bit Spandam's head, and said, "Mr. Tom risked his life to protect the blueprint, just because he didn't want to fall into the hands of a fool like you. You fool." Frankie bit Spandam hard with his teeth, as if he wanted to bite his head off. Spandam, on the other hand, rolled his eyes and asked for help in fear. Okukukus at, quote closing square bracket exclamation mark quote. Come and save me. At this moment, Facebook suddenly jumped nearby. Yo, got it. As soon as he finished speaking, his hair suddenly seemed to be alive, going around and wrapping around various parts of Frankie's body, pulling him away from Spandam. At the same time, he swung the Zen staff in his hand and knocked Frankie to the ground. After getting out of Frankie's mouth, Spandam was so angry that he rushed over and kicked Frankie with his feet, and cursed angrily, "You fool, you really can't change your mind and eat shit." While kicking Frankie, Spandam recalled a scene 8 years ago when Frankie was a little kid and beat him once in public. Suddenly, my feet became harder. After dozens of kicks, Spandam stopped because he was too tired. At this time, he looked arrogant again and said with contempt for Frankie, "If I had known that you kid was still alive and that the design was in your hands, I wouldn't have had to go through so much trouble with your senior brother Ace Bagu." He used his ability to reach a cooperation with the world government, contracted all the ships of the world government, and became the mayor of the Seven Waters capital. It's really hard for me to start with him. As he said that, Spandam suddenly looked at Robin next to him, showed a sinister smile, and said, "Originally, I had planned to take coercive measures against Ace Baku, but Admiral Aokiji brought me good news." Spandam looked at Robin with a ferocious smile and spoke word by word. "Nico Robin is riding a pirate ship and is about to sail to the Seven Waters city." As he spoke, he took out a golden phone bug from his arms, held it carefully in his hand, and continued. "And he also gave me this precious golden phone bug that can activate Buster Call." The moment he saw the golden phone bug, Robin's face turned pale, with endless fear in his eyes. Just listen to Spandam continue. "So I used Buster Call to come up with a new battle plan. Although the actual development is somewhat different from the plan. But, look, didn't your 2 keys to the resurrection of the ancient weapon come to me obediently?" Spandam became crazy again and laughed. "Do you understand? I am so proud now. My power is so great that I can dominate any big country at will. Plus or minus quadruple A." Robin still had fear in his eyes, staring straight at the golden phone bug, and said, "Why did Aokiji give you the right to launch a Buster Call?" Hearing this, Spandam suddenly stopped laughing, his expression instantly became extremely contemptuous and angry, and he stared at Robin. Suddenly, he clenched his fist and rushed forward, punching Robin in the face, knocking Robin to the ground. At the same time he asked angrily, "Are you worthy enough to ask me? You rude woman." After knocking Robin to the ground, Spandam looked down on Robin and said, "You are the remnant of O'Hara. If I hadn't discovered your value, your life would have been worthless. Why don't you thank me quickly?" Robin looked at Spandam with a painful expression and said nothing. Spandam continued to talk humiliatingly. "Moreover, I want you to face the torture of not being able to survive or die every day from now on. Torture you, use you, and finally throw you into the sea to feed the fish. This is your sin. Be mentally prepared. Wow ha 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 ha." Suddenly, Spandam remembered something, stopped laughing, looked at Robin with a playful expression, and said, "By the way, I just reported that a group of idiots want to save you. But he should have been arrested by now. It's Straw Hat Luffy and his associates. I just reported that they managed to injure 8 of my subordinates with all their might. But do you know, there are 10,000 of my subordinates on this island. Even if those idiots die from exhaustion, I'm afraid they won't be able to save you." Wow ha 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 ha. Hearing this sentence, Rob Lucci and others immediately frowned. The scene where Luffy kicked Kaku away is still fresh in their memories. How could he only defeat 8 people with that kind of strength? Just when they were doubting, Spandam looked at Robin again and said with a playful smile, "I have sent people to prepare the ship for the prison. When the time comes, send them and Katie Frame to the deep-sea prison. And you, just wait to be sent to naval headquarters by me, and let those people take advantage of you. In this way, all of our CP9 members will have to upgrade several levels in a row." Wow ha 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 ha. After hearing what Spandam said, Robin was suddenly startled, and his eyes became extremely hurt and angry. She yelled with all her strength. Wait, you don't mean what you say. Didn't you say that as long as I do what you say, I will ensure their safety? Spandam's expression suddenly became fierce when he heard this. He looked down upon Robin and said in a deep voice. Why are you so hoarse? The condition I offer you is that, except for Nico Robin, the rest of the Straw Hat crew can safely depart from the capital of Seven Waters. Didn't they leave the capital of Seven Waters safely and come here? After hearing Spandam's explanation, Robin's mood suddenly sank and he fell into deep despair. He asked helplessly, what did you say? Did you plan to play this word game from the beginning? Frankie also couldn't bear to curse at this time. You guys are a bunch of stinky shit. You fools with no mercy. After hearing Frankie's curse, Spandam's face suddenly darkened and he said solemnly. What did you say? The next second, he rushed forward and kicked Frankie and Robin again. Shut up, you fools. We don't need to keep promises to prisoners. Who do you think you are? It's Marine's job to trick and catch pirates. You, a woman who lives by betrayal, deserve your death. Spandam kicked a few times, and when he was tired, he suddenly looked at Robin and said with an extremely gloomy expression. Do you know what that straw hat did to me? That fool dared to openly threaten me, an official who represents the government of the world. He is committing an unpardonable crime. With that said, Spandam took out a phone bug and played the recording of Luffy's threat to him. Quote, if you didn't listen to me, you would have touched Luo Ding's hair. The next person to die is you. Clip. Spandam didn't say what he said. He was so afraid of embarrassment, how could others find out? After playing all of Luffy's threatening words, Spandam asked Robin. Did you hear that? This fool insults me and the government of the world like this. How could I let him go so easily? When my people capture him later, I will torture you again in front of him to see how angry and helpless he is. Then he was severely humiliated, tortured and beaten, and finally sent to prison. This will relieve my anger. Plus or minus awe. Listening to Spandam's words, Robin's eyes were blurred and filled with tears. She didn't know that Luffy had contacted Spandam privately for her. Although it was just something he said to Spandam in private, it was not a true declaration of war on the world government. But this determination moved Ronan extremely. At the same time, she also felt extremely self-blame and pain. Because she didn't want to see Luffy and his gang die because of her. Robin gritted his teeth and closed his eyes tightly. Tears wetted a large area of the floor, and his body was shaking uncontrollably. Seeing Robin's appearance, Spandam suddenly smiled proudly. Nico Robin, are you afraid of me already? Are you so afraid? If you had done this earlier, begged me for mercy, and done as I say, I wouldn't have kicked you so hard. But it's not entirely your fault that you are so afraid of me. That Straw Hat boy tried his best to defeat 8 of my subordinates. In the end, he was just too incompetent. You are so incompetent and you dare to say such big words. This is what makes me most unhappy. As he said that, Spandam wanted to kick Robin's feet to vent his anger. However, at this moment, a guard suddenly rushed in and said in a hurry. Report, sir. This is a phone bug sent urgently from the main island. The guard who delivered the call said he had something important to report. Please answer the call quickly. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.